And now let's take a look at the starting lineup for this 26th annual Winston Western 500 as the field moves around turn number 6. In row number 1, Tim Richmond, the 1982 winner. And alongside will be Darrell Waltrip, the winner in 1979 and 1980. For row number 2, Ricky Rudd, the 1985 winner in the Bud Moore Ford, and Jeff Bodine, the 1984 winner in the Hendrick car. Row 3, Bill Elliott, who won this race in 1983, and Terry Labonte, the 84 Winston Cup champion. For row 4, it's a two-time winner. Richard Petty is there, and the 1986 national champion of the Richard Childress Chevrolet, that's Dale Earnhardt. Row 5 is Bobby Allison, a three-time winner of the event, and alongside is Joe Ruttman in his Buick. Row 6 will be Rusty Wallace, and beside Wallace comes Neil Bonnet. Going to row number 7 for today's race, Morgan Shepherd is there, and beside him comes Mark Martin, who again has qualified well. In row 8 is Derek Cope from Washington and Kyle Petty. Row 9 is Jim Bound of Salem, Oregon, the brother of Chuck Bound and Bobby Hillen Jr. In row 10, it'll be Dave Marcus and Terry Petras from Bakersfield, California. Row 11 is Jim Robinson and Mike Waltrip. Row 12, Harry Gant and Rick Wilson. Row 13, the three-time Indy winner, Al Unser and Benny Parsons of Ellaby, North Carolina. Row 14, Ken Schrader and Ruben Garcia are there. Row 15 for today's race, Buddy Baker in his Oldsmobile and Herschel McGriff, who leads in the Winston West Standards. In row 16, Bill Schmidt, former Winston West champion, and Jimmy Means from Alabama. Row 17 is Glenn Steurer and Buddy Arrington. Row 18, the veteran road racer and teacher, Jim Fitzgerald from the Atlanta, Georgia area, and George Fulmer is back, the old Can-Am champion, ready to go. Row 19, Chad Little of Spokane and Ted Kennedy of California. Row 20 today is Rick Mcrae and Ron Esau of Lakeside, California. And row number 21, provisional starters, are Alan Kulwicki from Wisconsin in his Ford and Johnny Krebs of Rockland, California in an Oldsmobile. 42 starters today, battling for $404,000. 311 7/10 of a mile, 119 laps, 60 laps will mark the halfway point of this race on this 2.62-mile course. They're halfway around before we get down to a start today and get this last race, the 29th and final event, underway here at Riverside, California. Field getting ready to move to turn number 8 now. Tim Richmond's qualifying lap of 118.247 earned him the pole and broke the 7-race streak dominated by Darrell Waltrip and Terry Labonte in qualifying here at Riverside. And the old record of Waltrip's, 116.782, he broke his own record, that record dating back to 1983, and then 1 hour later, Richmond really plastered one of the record books. Tim Richmond winning $30,000, the Bush Pole Award for 86. He won 8 poles in the season. He tied his teammate Jeff Bodine. He had better second-place finishes to put it all together. Pace car is bringing the field down as we start the Winston West here at Riverside, California. The 60th road race in NASCAR Winston Cup Grand National history. It dates all the way back to Linden, New Jersey in 1954 when Al Keller won a race in a Jaguar owned by the old band leader Paul White. It's a whole new look today. A grand finish to the season, battling for 2nd through 10th in the standings. A lot of resolution to be made here. About $2 million at stake. Here comes the pace car onto pit road. Again, the front row as we prepare for action. Richmond and Waltrip will be into turn number 1 first. Jumping out in front as they go into turn 1, it is Tim Richmond. Waltrip back to 2nd. Bodine falling to 3rd. As they make their way toward the S's.
Richmond got a great jump off of turn 9. He got out in the lead. I thought Walter may have a shot at leading the race, but Richmond's out front. Let's see if he can run away with it.
Here they are up through the S's, headed for that very treacherous turn number 6. Tim Richmond for the moment. There you see Waltrip in 2nd, Richmond leading. Bodine back there in that 3rd position. Ricky Rudd in 4th, Elliott in 5th. As they wind around turn number 6. Turn 7 is not used on this 2.6-mile configuration. You might wonder how they get from 6 to 8. Well, it's a little dipsy-do that is left out of this course. Here they are on the negative camber, turn number 8, and into the long back straightaway. You can really wheel down through here.
Richmond opened up about a 3-car length lead. Jeff Bodine goes for 2nd place beside Darrell Waltrip.
There's Terry Labonte on the move. Richard Petty very confident that he's going to have a good today. Right up there. there among them as they scoot down into turn number 9. Raymond Beadle's car. Rusty Wallace aboard out of Missouri around turn number 6. And they continue to scatter stones and dust up at him here.
That's a little short shoot right there between turn 6 and 8. That eliminates turn 7.
Back they come into the long straightaway, and here are the teammates going after each other. In fact, all 3 of them will be teammates, first, second, and third, for Rick Kendrick next year. Here's that third-place car, Waltrip, and look who's knocking on his door. It's Ricky Rudd, the defending winner here at Riverside, California, in this event, trying to move in on Darrell Waltrip.
You have a number of very accomplished road racers up there towards the front. We have a pass for the lead. Jeff Bodine on the inside, through the dirt.
Right down on the bottom, car number 5 just squeezes in there, and Bodine goes out in front.
Richmond has lost the lead momentarily here, but he scored the first of a number of minor victories of the day. He has led a lap. Remember, there's a 5-point bonus for that in Winston Cup racing. He came into this event trailing Darrell Waltrip in that crucial race for second place by 21 points. He's picked up 5. The difference is now just 16 points in the race for second place, and they're all over this racetrack, Ken.
Now reviewing a little further down in the standings. Petty is in 8th, Bobby Allison to 9th, Rusty Wallace is in 10th. Neil Bonnet currently is shown in 11th position. Field moves back to turn number 6. And this dust can be a real problem. They had actually hoped they might get just a tad of rain to kind of straighten things out in there. Some of those drivers use up a lot of racetrack. It's interesting to watch them through the yeses here. A guy like Waltrip hardly moves the steering wheel, and Tim Richmond uses every bit of it.
Ken, it should be required for everybody coming to Riverside to watch the race to go over and watch them go through the S's. It's some sight to see.
And there's so many different styles used here. A lot of guys use up a lot of racetrack and a lot of the turf as well. Petty is one of them. He uses up all the track and a little bit more. Richard Petty running in 8th. You saw him there. Here come the leaders another time. Moving down is Richmond. Let's see if he'll make a counterattack. He pulls up, starts to drive underneath, and there is no place to go as Bodine holds on. And the Hendrick cars, those Chevrolets, stay first and second.
It's extremely difficult to pass somebody on the outside through turn 9. The inside is definitely the way to go. Richmond is right up on Bodine's bumper.
Here they are out of turn number 9. Remember that as you come off there, you have the driver's door flush against the wall. A sensation these guys aren't used to and don't really relish.
It's basically single file through the S's there. You saw Tim Richmond following Jeff Bodine. There's really only one way through there, and that's straight.
Back to the inside. Richmond seems to be able to hug a little closer to the bottom of the racetrack, and he may be willing to let Bodine go up there for a moment or two. Although on this track, I think you'd want it as clear as much as you possibly can get it. Any slight miscue, and there's one where time after time we have seen people slipping and sliding. And as they come down into the main straightaway, Bodine pulls away by 4 or 5 car lengths. The Nelson prepared car. Harry Hyde, who always built great qualifying setups for racers, not only got his car out here and just blitzed the record by 1 mile and 8, but he came right back, and in practice yesterday, Phil, I thought he had about a half second on the field on race setup.
I do too. He was by far the quickest car in practice, but Jeff Bodine is doing the job right now, but Tim Richmond can't stay right with him, so I think Tim may just be saving the car a little bit.
Now remember, along with the $400,000 purse, there are so many other things to be decided here as these guys key in on the banquet at the Waldorf Astoria coming up in December. There's Richard Petty being challenged by Joe Ruttman. Ruttman taking a shot and not getting through there. Rusty Wallace continues to run in 10th, and we'll be back with more of the action from Riverside, California in a moment.
We're back at Riverside International Raceway, where the 1986 Winston Cup Stock Car Championship season comes to a dramatic conclusion today. There is your lead battle. Out front, Jeff Bodine. Right behind him, Tim Richmond. A couple of early contenders for a couple of special awards that we're going to be giving away that we'll be watching for nominees throughout the afternoon. As you know, on Motor Week Illustrated here on WTBS, we always pick the Motor Week Racer of the Week, the Champion Spark Plug Award that is given to the driver who throughout the realm of motorsports does the best job. When we come to the races and bring them to you live, we look for the guy who does the best job in that event. Not necessarily the winner, the guy who drives the best race of the day. There are a couple of good contenders for Champion Spark Plug Racer of the Race. Now, beyond that, there's a bunch of money on the line for these two guys and several more in the field. The True Value Hardware people have put up their Hard Charger Award. $5,000 $10,000 per race, $50,000 at the end of the year for the drivers who run up front all day. 5 points for leading a lap, 4 for second, 3, 2, 1. The top 5 scoring points each lap. Earnhardt has clinched up the hardest Charger of all award from True Value, but we've got $5,000 to give away today, and the rest of that 50 grand will be given away at the end of the afternoon. We'll be following that all day long.
Averaging 113 miles per hour. The battle up in front becomes still a battle of teammates as Bodine leads and Tim Richmond stays in the second position. They wheel back into turn number 9. Braking, coming down through the gears. Not about 1 gear here, right?
Yeah, down to 3rd gear through turn 9.
And back they come to about 120 miles per hour to the start line at Riverside, California. Final race of the season. As you watch Bodine now pulling away by some 8-car lengths. A couple of changes further back in the field. Joe Ruttman has passed Richard Petty. Ruttman has moved into 8th. Petty dropped to 9th. Bobby Allison has come up to 10th, and Rusty Wallace has dropped to 11th. Chad Little, who was battling for the Winston West Championship, a young driver, just 28 years old, is sitting on pit road. That'll pretty much give the Western title, their last race of the season, to the old veteran, 42-year campaigner, Herschel McGriff, who's never won the Winston West title. There's Richard Petty taking a face full of dirt as he comes around turn number 6, now in the 8th position.
Ken, Jeff Bodine, the leader, is already lapping traffic. That's George Fulmer, a very accomplished road racer that he's already lapping just in a few laps.
Front 4 still within a half second of each other. Here's Fulmer going a lap down. Larry Digman here, and they're talking about looking for a regular driver for their car on the 1987 Winston Cup Tour. Talked to a lot of people. They want the right one, but they want to come out, and as you know, they ran a lot of Trans Am and GTO and sports cars, Tommy Riggins. And they have Al Unser here today in their car.
They have a good team put together. They have David Ift as the crew chief for next year, Ducky Newman, engine builder. So they should have an excellent team.
First and second back to the line. Still another time, and 3rd place is now a full second back. That is Waltrip in 3rd, followed by Ricky Rudd in 4th. Elliott lies 5th, and in 6th, it's the number 3 car, Earnhardt, in the 6th position now as he's just moved around Terry Labonte. Jeff Bodine out in front. We asked him how he likes road racing.
You know, road racing, it isn't any tougher than circle track racing. I don't believe the demands are any more. I think oval racing is probably harder. You go around in a circle with every lap, the maximum speed you can get out of the car through the corners and down the straightaways. Here you can play with the car. It really reminds me of when I was a kid back in Chemung, racing the back roads. Just go out there and have a good time.
Well, he's certainly having a good time right now. It's the best time you can have when you're sitting up in front. But there's still a long way to go. There's Richmond right there, snuggled down in 2nd place as they come around turn number 9. Big angle corner. You shift down, you're still just about right on the floor all the way around. As Dave Despain says, you can just leave your hoof in it.
That's about right. Just about everywhere you can. Through turn 9, once you get in the corner, then you just have to play with the throttle, and about midway through, then you get in the throttle wide open and come on off.
Now there is number 3. That is the national champion, Dale Earnhardt, the Richard Childress car. He has pulled himself up to 6th position, and he's won the championship. It is the first time since 1978, when Cale won 2 races before the end of the year, that we've decided the title other than in the last race of the year.
I think
As we watch Dale Earnhardt charge around there, Ken, we come back to that issue of motivation that we talked about at the top of the show. Earnhardt flashing by in number 3, has the series championship all locked up. So what's his drive to go out and win the race here today? I'll tell you what it is. He wants to be the winningest driver of the season. He's heard all about Darrell Waltrip winning the title 3 times and never being the guy who won the most races. Earnhardt has the championship. Here's a car off track. That is car number 50 in trouble. Al Unser, the IndyCar star, making a stock car run here. And here's Alan Kulwicki. That's the top rookie in the field. And Alan Kulwicki is off in the dirt. He's stuck. He's going to get it back underway. We got a lot of action. We'll get back to that Earnhardt story in a moment. Kulwicki looks like he's going to get back on track.
Here's Kulwicki, who started as a provisional starter today, running for a Rookie of the Year, coming back on the track. as staying in the lead is Bodine, with Richmond in second, scooting by to complete another lap.
The early part of the race, Ken, was pretty clean, but all of a sudden we had 2 cars off the track.
Here's Rusty Wallace closing in again on Bobby Allison in their battle for 10th position. The Alucard car. But Rusty Wallace closes in another time, trying to move in on Allison. Remember, Allison won this race twice in 1 year, back in 1981, when they ran it in January and then came back to conclude the season.
Yeah, that's a tremendous battle there. You have Neil Bonnet right on Rusty Wallace's bumper, with Richard Petty just ahead, running through the dirt.
A dusty fog comes out in front of you every so often and makes it no fun at all, because you just have to keep your boot in it and stand a pretty good chance of getting drop kicked from behind. Now here's Kyle Petty's car number 7. You see him back in the 13th position as he works his way up through. It's a lot of dust out here in turn number 6. That gives you an idea of what they're having to face as they continue their battle. And the Winston Western 500 at Riverside.
We're back at Riverside International Raceway. A great view from high above the action here around this 2.5-2.6-mile race course. As Tim Richmond and Jeff Bodine, the teammates, continue to battle. Bodine thus far has been the hardest charger of the day. He's led most of the laps. This is the true value hard charger series standings we talked about a moment ago. Earnhardt has already clinched the championship. This gap here is insurmountable. Bodine is trying to lock down second place, and he'll do that by running right where he is now up at the front of the field. Richmond is back here in 5th in the overall standings.
Thank you, Dave. The Terry Labonte car has been out doing a little agricultural racing, fallen back to 14th. Mark Martin is now in 15th. Derek Cope in 16th. Bobby Hill in 17th. Dave Marcus in 18th. In the 19th position is Harry Gant in a must-win situation. Jim Bound is running in the 20th position at the present time. Benny Parsons is back in 21st, while the 22nd position is uncertain. 13 laps are now complete. 13 complete. Pretty good scramble going on out here in the... There you see Richard Petty trying to hold off Allison. They've been up there nibbling on each other a bit in the last lap or two. That's the battle. Richard Petty is in 8th. Bobby Allison is in the 9th position in the car 22, and Neil Bonnet is running in 10th. And there's Bonnet closing right up on his old teacher, the old pedagogue. There you see Petty in the 43 car. He is in 8th, followed by Allison in 9th, and the red, number 12, is Neil Bonnet in 10th position. Neil taking another stab at this one.
It seems like that group's been running together the whole race, Ken. They've been right nip and tuck.
A lot of people are concerned that Petty uses up a lot of racetrack, and he's apt to throw some dirt up there. That's one of a couple of drivers they always talk about. Richard, he's not worried about what's behind. He's far more concerned about what's up in front.
Well, he makes up for it, Ken, on the oval tracks because he runs up against the wall and nobody else does, see. So now he can use their part of the racetrack here.
Gives you plenty of room on the inside. Now you see the number 3 car. What a story on Dale Earnhardt this year. It's not just Richard Childress, but it's so many people that made that car successful. Like the Lou LaRosa, the engine builder, who put together, what, 48 engines this year? They only lost 2 in the entire season. And Cecil Gordon, who had such great runs, 3rd, 4th, 3rd in the standings back in the early 70s. And he's kind of the foreman. He's out here. Look at this battle continue to develop between the teammates. Here comes Richmond into turn number 1 of the number 25 car. Bodine with him, and Richmond is going to retake the lead. Ooh!
Very close. Tim got beside him in turn 1 and had the inside line for turn 2 and just made Jeff back off.
Jeff did not want to back off. Jeff's dad and mother are out here. We're all kind of staying in the same motel, and they were pumping him up while he had his Wheaties this morning. You want to know what a real champion, like the guy that won the Daytona 500 has for breakfast? Orange juice, Wheaties, no coffee.
I might have to try that.
Here you see Earnhardt, and he's followed by Ruttman. Remember that Ruttman got second back here in that green car, that Quaker State car that has been brought in by Kenny Bernstein. Ruttman ran to second place in 81, and he's a good road racer. I think he's a good racer all around, and it just never seems to come together for Joe.
It's amazing that Joe Ruttman has never won a race, Ken. It's absolutely amazing. He's been close very many times, but just hasn't done it.
Let's take another look at that pass made by Tim Richmond over teammate Jeff Bodine.
Here they are going into turn 2. Tim has already got by him, and Jeff had nowhere to go. No choice but just to back off and get him behind him.
Had to limp. So now it is as follows. Richmond is first, Bodine is second, Waltrip is third, Ricky Rudd of Chesapeake, Virginia is in fourth, Georgia's Bill Elliott is fifth, Dale Earnhardt is in sixth, Joe Ruttman seventh, Richard Petty holds on to eighth as Neil Bonnet and Bobby Allison continue to knock on his door. It's been a pretty good one this afternoon.
Sure has. Tim Richmond's doing a little horticulture work out there through the S's.
Now, they all do a little gardening here at Riverside. In the old days, of course, everybody kind of joked about this. No more after the performances in the last 10 years on this track. They've proven themselves to be outstanding racers. You take a guy like Elliott and you stuff him into one of those IMSA GTO cars or Trans Am, and he just runs like Jack the Bear all day.
He sure does.
As does this man. Earnhardt could be, and Ruttman, I think, is a superlative road racer. It's interesting that the guy who seems to thrash the most, and they talk about having to be smooth on a road course, well, the one that is the least smooth out there seems to be Richmond. He uses every bit of the car. Now you're back another time with Rusty Wallace as he closes right in that Aluguard car in that battle for 10th position. There's Bobby Allison holding 10th. There's Richard Petty up in front. He's in 9th.
I believe that's Neil Bonnet up ahead. Neil Bonnet just got by Richard Petty.
And he's in 8th now. So you've got 4 of them running in a pack, and you're following them around this 2.6-mile track in the $400,000 race to finish the 1986 season.
Ken, let's elaborate a little bit on that whole business of racing stock cars on a road course. You think about the precision of road racing, the Formula One cars that hit the line to a fraction of an inch. These guys don't worry about that. They run all year long on super speedways, 200 miles an hour. You get out of control, you're going to hit the wall. You come to Riverside, man, it's wide open spaces. You got plenty of places to run off in the dirt. Ask Tim Richmond, who ran that incredible qualifying lap. Ask Richard Petty, who's moved 12 tons of earth around this place in 23 starts on this racetrack. Road racing drivers who do it for a living live by precision. The guys who come out here to Riverside for the season's finale use that little strip of pavement as kind of a general guideline of where they're supposed to spend the afternoon, but beyond that, it's Katie bar the door.
Dramatic pictures from Rusty Wallace's car. They were lapping George Fulmer's machine as he continues to stay in here and fight with Allison and Petty, 9th, 10th, and 11th right there. Meanwhile, here is Waltrip with problems of his own. Remember, he wants to hold on to second place in the standings. Ricky Rudd's trying to knock him down a notch at this time, and Tim Richmond has reappropriated first place. Darrell Waltrip really wants to hang on to the runner-up spot in the overall standings for the year.
Sure, if he can't be first, at least be second, and it probably monetarily would mean $80,000 to $100,000. So we don't want to roll over here and lose that too. I'd like to finish up in second place. That means out of the last 6 years I've been first or second.
Well, right now he has his hands full. Richmond has closed from 21 points out when the race began to just 6 points behind Darrell Waltrip. Richmond closing this season in just dramatic style. Race after race, he's been the story.
That's exactly right. He had probably the most phenomenal second half of the season that anybody has had in a long, long time.
Name a track that he hasn't won on, you're hard-pressed. And he's being hard-pressed right now. Bodine wants his lead back.
I think Jeff's wanting to show Tim that he wasn't real happy about him taking the pole bonus away from him, so he wants to go up there and lead.
Let's go to Chris Economaki.
I'm standing down here with Rick Kendrick, the owner of the cars in first and second place, and the man who will have the third place driver as his stable next year. Rick, what's the secret of your success in this sport of stock car racing?
I don't know, Chris. The right people and hard work, I guess. Harry and Gary and Jeff and Tim done a super job, and all the crew. It's just hard work.
Rick, your two drivers are trading the lead back and forth. Doesn't this bother you that they might knock one another out?
Yeah, I asked Harry, I said, tell them to pass on the straightaway. Every time they pass, it's right here in front of me in the S-turn, and I don't like that.
Okay, the problems of the car owner. Rick Kendrick, back to you, Tim.
I don't think they're paying any attention the way they're going at it right now. Another lap down with the 25 car out in front. And there is Alan Kowicki's car. Remember, he was off earlier out in the dirt. Gets himself back together.
He's coming in the pits, Ken.
Going to pit. Alan Kowicki, who really turned his year around. He did not qualify at Daytona. He did not qualify at Richmond, Virginia, and everybody figured that Alan Kowicki was out of it. And then he came back, and the second half of the season has been as dramatic in its way for him as it was for Richmond. 18 laps are now complete. Rusty Wallace here racing his heart out, trying to get a good finish for Raymond Beadle this afternoon, and we'll follow his exploits throughout the day.
Riverside International Raceway on a lovely Sunday afternoon for a little 175-mile-an-hour combat. Here in the STP Pit Communication Center, let's change the leaderboard. Ricky Rudd has moved around. Darrell Waltrip, the defending champion in this race, is up to third. Yesterday out here, we saw a demolition derby. Crashes everywhere. We'll show you some highlights a little later. This race has been clean and green, and that means one of the big stories is going to be pit strategy and fuel mileage. Let's get a bit more on that from Chris Economaki.
Well, Tim Richmond is the bold driver on the racetrack. The bold man in the pits is his crew chief, Harry Hyde. He just said he's going to bring Tim in for gas on the 30th lap. Now, there's 119 laps in the race, and if you can do that, you're going to make the race in 3 stops. But just before the start, Jeff Bodine, Tim Richmond's teammate, said that in June here, he ran out of gas after 29 laps. So we'll have to wait and see whether Harry Hyde is making the right call for Tim Richmond. There's been no yellow flags. The pace has been faster than ever before. It's going to be close. Back to you, Captain.
Thank you, Chris. 20 of 119 laps complete, so it's about 10 laps away before it gets down to time to come in for fuel. Bobby Hillen just jumped in and came back on the track again. And also Ted Kennedy, California driver, was shortly on pit road. Now look at Bodine again at turn 9. He closes each time, moves in on the leader, Tim Richmond, as you watch it live here on the Superstation from Riverside, California. Bodine coming up on the outside. And there's no room there. Tim uses it all.
I'll tell you, Ken, I've been watching turn 9. Turn 9 is getting awfully slick. I saw Jeff Bodine 2 or 3 laps ago slam sideways in turn 9. That time, Tim Richmond is trying a little bit different line now to try to get out of the slick part of the racetrack.
Ricky Rudd has moved around. Darrell Waltrip for third. Waltrip relegated to fourth. Bill Elliott is back in fifth. In the 6th spot is Dale Earnhardt. Joe Ruttman is a stout 7th. Neil Bonnet in 8th. Richard Petty is in 9th. Back at turn number 6. And Bodine really turns the pressure on here as he stays right with Richmond. And that's one thing that Richmond is a lot like Earnhardt about. He doesn't falter to pressure.
Not at all.
Tim Richmond, who's starting an acting career, starting to take acting classes. He's moving to Southern California for the interim before they get back to Daytona next February. He may be the next superstar on Dallas. Would he be JR, or what would you think would be the proper role for him?
Probably JR. That would fit Tim Richmond.
That's going to do you a lot of good if you get to Daytona with him. Back to Chris.
Okay, I'm down in the pits here with Gary Nelson, the crew chief for Jeff Bodine. Gary, what about your first fuel stop? You know when that'll be?
Well, we're watching the fuel pressure real close. We've been having a problem with it fluctuating. So that's going to make a difference on when we stop based on what fuel pressure is doing. 31 would be a safe number if we continued like we are.
But Jeff told me before the race that you ran out here in June after 29 laps.
That's right. That's what we're watching right now. 29 laps isn't near as far as our car should be able to run. We should be able to run about 6 laps.
Richard Petty has crashed at turn number 9.
Okay,
he's spun.
there you have it.
He's tagged the wall. He's back underway. There is no caution on the track. Petty around and into the wall. Phil Parsons just pointing out that it was getting very slippery up there. Here comes Petty's number 43 down on the pit road. He finished 2nd at Atlanta in his last outing and was so thrilled about that and was looking for a good finish today.
Bobby Allison was also involved. Ken, he preceded Richard Petty down pit road, and he had some damage to the left side of the car, so they must have got together going in 9.
Allison's car is parked just in front of Richard. Now here's Allison coming back out. Richard Petty in there looking over the nose on car number 43. It's not been the kind of year that Richard Petty wanted. Here's Bobby Allison back on the track.
You can probably see the left rear quarter panel of the car. You can see a little bit of damage there.
Pushed up there. Number 50, Al Unser, directly in front of him. Richard Petty he's just coming out now. Number 43 is just back on the track after 28 seconds on pit road. And look at this. Here's Bodine getting ready to pit. Questionable fuel pressure here, and Bodine is on pit road, who's been battling for the lead thus far in our Winston Western 500. He's in. The Gary Nelson crew over the wall. Jackman has him in the air. Here's Chris.
Okay, it's a stop. It's a surprise stop. They're changing the left front tire. It's obviously a tire program. Well, now Jeff Bodine is committed to a 4-stop race. He's going to be out of sync with the other drivers when it comes to pit stops. It was a quick stop, and we're going to take a look at that tire and see just what the trouble is. We'll report back when we find out.
15 and 2/10 seconds was the time on pit road. 15.2 on Bodine, and he came in a little early. As Bodine elected to come on pit road, he was in the 23rd lap.
Richmond, the guy who spent more time this week in the dirt than anybody else can, brings up a point that relates, I think, to his teammate Bodine. We talked about the fact that they run off the track with abandon here. There is a risk in that, and that is the fact that all that nice smooth dirt out there is in fact filled with rocks. You put a wheel off the racetrack, you run the danger of cutting down a tire. The second half of that problem is that when you're out there sliding around in the dirt, you're throwing those rocks up on the racetrack. Cut tires are a big potential problem here at Riverside.
So the leader is Tim Richmond, and he gets some breathing room for the moment. Comes around for the 24th lap. Ricky Rudd is well back in second, almost a second and a half down as our live coverage continues. Then it's only about 20 car lengths to the third place man, which is Waltrip, followed by Bill Elliott in fourth position. And the fifth position now is car number 26, Joe Ruttman. Into seventh moves Dale Earnhardt. I think Earnhardt's waiting on him. Neil Bonnet is up into eighth.
I think Joe Ruttman may have the best car on the racetrack right now, Ken. He's moved up steadily. He got by Earnhardt a few laps ago, and the interval between first and second, 25 and 15, is stabilized.
Kenny Bernstein, of course, getting a new driver next year. Morgan Shepherd takes over as Morgan moves from Raymont to the Bernstein crew, green and white colors. And the word is that we may see that Ruttman stepping into a Cliff Stewart car next year. Wouldn't it be great to have Cliff Stewart back? One of the more colorful car owners of all time. There's Tim Richmond, Ashland, Ohio, who has had a remarkable, had he had the season in the first half that he's had in the second half, this would be the undisputable champion. He was just unbeatable over the last half of 1986.
Kenny, Tim Richmond has just put Kyle Petty a lap down, so he's setting a blistering pace.
Pace is over 113 miles per hour. Working on a record here.
Richmond's coming in the pits.
Richmond is pitting. He is coming in on lap 25. So you can throw away that plan about 31. He's taking it very carefully here. Up pit road, Tim Richmond, Harry Hyde and company. Harry Jr. ready to work on car number 25. Here's Chris.
Okay, they're changing right-side tires on Richmond's car. We just checked why Jeff Bodine stopped, and it was not a tire problem. It was fuel pressure. He thought the car was running out of fuel. It was a long way from being empty, but now here Richmond is being brought in. We'll have to find out about that. The whole strategy has gone up in smoke in the Rick Hendrick Cruz pit. Back to you.
So they're out of sync with the rest of the field, and we should see those other leaders coming in our live coverage the next 2 or 3 laps. There's the ongoing problem of driving blind at better than 120 miles per hour at that part of the track. It's Jimmy Means, number 52. Great Alabama champion out here giving it his best shot today. At the current time, he's out of the top 15. Ricky Rudd is now your leader, and Darrell Waltrip comes into second place. Rudd picking up 5 points. Ricky Rudd currently 5th in the overall standings. Has his own problems. The Rusty Wallace back in 6th, Bobby Allison 7th. Tell you that one of the better point battles is Kyle Petty versus Bobby Hillen for 10th. We'll try to keep up to date on how those point battles come out before we leave you this afternoon here at Riverside, California.
Ricky Rudd and Darrell Waltrip have run together every lap of this race, Ken.
Oh, there's a spinner. It's one of the West Coast cars, Ted Kennedy, in the Fred Stokes Chevrolet, going all the way around. No caution out, but he's in a precarious position. They may have to bring out a caution here.
If he doesn't get it going, Ken, they will have to bring out a caution because he's too close to the racetrack.
Anybody gets into the back end of him right now, they should slither off. We're going to have serious problems. Now Earnhardt is pitting. Dale Earnhardt, who's been working his way rather leisurely up through the field, brings car number 3 down pit road. Dale Earnhardt, 2-time Winston Cup champion, taking on right side rubber. This is a day that he really relishes. He hasn't got to worry about points. He can just go out and run. Another runner who's been doing very good work in this event is Benny Parsons, who started way back, what, 26th, 24th?
26th. None other than my big brother.
Benny's first road race was right here in 1971 at Riverside. He finished 3rd. Pretty good road race.
Not a bad start.
and he was second in 78 and 83. We'll keep track of number 55, so Phil has something to cheer for. Now we're going to watch as Waltrip makes the move. Here's Waltrip on the outside there, wheel to wheel. Beautiful racing here. Back goes Ricky Rudd into that front running position. Harry Gant comes on pit road. Yellow is out. Caution is on the track. We have another car that has skiddled off, and there is one that's torn up in the nose. I think that's Rick Wilson's car. Wilson, who is making an attempt at road racing. He is a great super speedway driver. The Morgan McClure car. They'll have 8 cars on that team for 19 races in 1987. Right now, Rick Wilson's efforts in road racing are coming up a little thin. Caution is on the track. It is the first caution of the day. There's the leader on pit road, Ricky Rudd. 27 laps are complete. We're under caution for the first time this afternoon. And we'll be back with more of the live action of the Winston Western 500 after these messages. 28 of 119 laps have been completed here at Riverside, California. There has been a spin and a crash, and one of the cars involved is the number 3 car. There you see Wilson's car, and the man he collected was Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt's number 3 has just been on pit road. It's going down into turn number 1 at this moment, and it really took a cuffing right in the driver's door. Here is car number 3, Dale Earnhardt, the new champion, and he was in that skirmish. And the side of that car is not the same as it was. He is back underway. While we're under yellow, let's update other motor racing news today. Here's Bob Barsha with a GM Goodwrench update.
Well, thank you, Ken. Aside from our business here at Riverside Raceway, the top story of the weekend comes from across the country in St. Petersburg, Florida, where the Sports Car Club of America Pro Series are winding up their season in the St. Petersburg Grand Prix. Yesterday, Canadian Scott Goodyear won the Pro Formula Atlantic Championship, and with it, that series title. Today, that bitter Trans Am manufacturers battle between Ford and Chevy will take to the streets of St. Pete. Pete Halsmer has the pole for Ford, which holds a 1-point lead over Chevrolet. In fact, Ford products hold the top 4 spots in that race. We'll keep you posted. Now, if you like the action you're seeing in today's Winston Cup race, you should have been here yesterday when the Grand American Challenge Series regulars held their season finale here at Riverside, and it was gangbusters. Winston Cup star Bill Elliott grabbed the early lead, while pole sitter Duke Hohenschel was relegated to the rear for a chassis violation. With 11 Riverside rookies in the field, crashes were expected, and they started on lap 1, though a broken arm was the day's worst injury. Mechanical gremlins claimed Elliott in the race's second half, and though Awesome Bill made it back out into the event, no one could touch the red number 38 of Duke Hohenschel, who came from last to first to claim his first ever win in the Southwest Tour finale at Riverside, and he did it over newly crowned series champ Ron Esau. When we come back to the Motor Week Goodwrench Racing Update Center, we'll have more from St. Petersburg, some California racing highlights, and a whole lot more. That's it for now for this edition of the GM Goodwrench Motor Week Illustrated Racing Update. Now back to Ken.
Well, here's Dale Earnhardt on pit road, and they're changing tires again and looking over car number 3. We are still under caution. That Duke Hohenschel victory yesterday, interesting for a couple of reasons. One of them, Phil, that was that Fisher 6-cylinder engine that we saw Morgan Shepherd win with at Rockingham, that Dale Earnhardt won with at Charlotte. Boy, that's the engine of the future. He came from last place to win yesterday. He's a good racer, but he also had a great car.
Ken, I don't think that engine has lost a race yet. I believe it's the same engine Dale Earnhardt ran at Darlington and won the race. Dominated at Charlotte, almost lapped the field, and Morgan Shepherd won at Rockingham and Hohenschel yesterday. So I don't think it's lost a race.
Earlier, you heard Chris Economaki talking in our coverage of this Western 500 about the fact that the fuel pressure might be an issue on those 2 leaders out of the Hendrick stable. It was a fuel pressure problem that eliminated Bill Elliott yesterday in car number 9. It's just a big mystery here in this track. Here's Alan Kulwicki running just in front of the pace car as they bring them by. And Darrell Waltrip continues to lead. We'll be back with more of our live coverage of the last race of 1986 in a moment. We are just back under green. They take green in that long back straightaway. Rusty Wallace running in 8th. And there's Benny Parsons, who's come from way back in the field. Look at Ricky Rudd at number 15 working on the lap car as he goes after Darrell Waltrip around turn number 9 of this 2.6-mile Riverside International Raceway, Riverside, California. It's where the action is. Bill Elliott is now in third. Neil Bonnet is in fourth. 30 laps complete as we're back with you live this afternoon on the Superstation. Elliott getting just a little running room and gets on the bottom of the track underneath Glenn Struer from Simi Valley, California, and his Chevrolet. Back they go through the S's, and one car off, just sliding off into the dirt and back on again.
Looked like Jeff O'Dine took a little shortcut there, Ken. Went right through the dirt.
Give us your perception of this race, Cowers, with all these cars off and all this dancing around. Seems like we have we've got a lot of problems here.
It's Harry Gant, Morgan Shepherd off the racetrack.
Coming up to turn 6.
That was all caused by Jeff O'Dine running off the racetrack, Ken.
Here's the number 73 car out of the Winston West Series. Bill Schmidt currently third in their standings. And it looks like a London fog has settled over turn number 6. He's taken considerable damage, has Harry Gant, with car number 33, who desperately wanted to win this race today. He came out here and went to driver's school.
Harry Gant, that ongoing story of motivation, Ken. There's something called the Winner's Circle program in NASCAR. Win a race during the season, you get $180,000 over the next year with which to go racing. Harry Gant is the one driver who came here needing to win a race in order to get on that so-called Winner's Circle program for next year. He's off in the dirt with a torn-up race car. Number 75, Morgan Shepherd, also involved. He has won a race this year.
The Raymock team, where Neil Bonnet will hang his hat next year. They're in trouble, and the front end of that car is crushed. We are under caution. Caution is out once again, and let's look in replay, Phil, at what happened here.
There you see Jeff O'Dine has just run off the racetrack. He's already up into turn 6 now. And you see everybody cannot see. There's no way they can see through there, and everybody's taking a different line. A number of cars get together. There's Harry Gant, Morgan Shepherd. They got together. Bill Schmidt's elsewhere. He got off the racetrack. I counted about 10 cars getting off the racetrack.
So the second caution comes within 2 laps. Here's another look at what happened from behind the action.
So you absolutely cannot see anything.
It's like a bomb went off.
There's Bill Schmidt against the inside guardrail. They just had nowhere to go.
And there you see the damage done to Morgan Shepherd's hopes today. Car number 75 takes a savage beating in the nose. Looks like he's still in the car, but he's moving. He's all right. Morgan Shepherd in car number 75. Moves on to a new team next year. What a bad way to end for him today. He moves over to Kenny Bernstein's team next year. Now here is Harry Gantz, number 33, coming down to turn number 9. And they took some back-end damage. They can fix that, but that doesn't help much. Beat up the suspension some.
Right now, Ken, Harry Gant is still in the lead lap. If he can get in the pits, get back out, he still will be in the lead lap.
Well, the field is right behind him. They're only about a quarter of a lap. In fact, Gant is going to stay out. He has been told to stay on the track, take one more lap before he pits so that he doesn't go down a lap. There you see the crew right there on pit road. Here's Dave Despain.
Harry Gant's crew's making a smart move here. They're keeping him up there in contention. This guy was on the charge, Ken. He had moved from 27th starting spot up to 11th in the field. If they could patch that thing up, sure, he's got body damage, but everybody's going to go out of here with body damage. If the suspension's okay, if that car's not torn up underneath, if he can stay on the lead lap, as it looks like he may be able to do, Harry could still be around for the finish of this thing. Don't count him out yet.
So here this afternoon at Riverside International Raceway, it is not a good day for Harry Gant. Riverside cars are not the same as oval trackers. Dave Despain and the Racing Parsons family took a look at the biggest difference in the cars for this race.
Benny Parsons' Copenhagen Oldsmobile weighs in at 3,700 pounds. That's required by the NASCAR rules. The car itself is a trim 3,300 pounds. Here's the difference. 400 pounds of lead ballast. And the experts, like Phil Parsons, our TBS commentator, and Benny's little brother, know that where you put that weight is really the key to a successful Riverside racer. Now, you've got a little bit of work to do. All of this weight is bolted into the frame rails. I'd help you, but I've got a bad back. On a left-hand turn car, an oval track car with left-hand corners, all the weight is on the left-hand side. You need to hurry because this is kind of a short piece. Here at Riverside, the turns, I'm busy. The turns all go to the right, and so all of that weight has to be moved over to the right. Now, there's more to the question, though, of where you put the pounds at Riverside. Let's go up and look at the front of the car. Up here in the engine compartment, you have the oil cooler, a couple of oil filters, and a big, heavy oil tank that have all been moved from the left side to the right side. Meanwhile, the work continues. Phil, you really do need to get the lead out here, buddy. Let me show you a couple of things inside the car. That fire extinguisher bottle and a couple of drivetrain filters and coolers weigh 60, maybe 70 pounds. Again, they've been moved from left to right. And here is the final element in this weighty equation. Driver Benny Parsons. Now, on 26 oval races a year, Benny's 200 and some pounds is a big advantage, sitting right here on the left side of the race car. But, Benny, you come to Riverside, they can't move the driver. You're going to get in on the left side and undo all of this good work that your brother's done.
Yeah, but at Riverside, it takes lots of stamina to finish 500 kilometers. I got lots of stamina.
Phil's still got a little more work to do. Come on, big guy. Let's go to lunch.
Okay.
We're back with you again at Riverside, and there's an ambulance out now for one of the drivers. It may be for Morgan Shepherd. We saw him moving in the car.
He walked over to the ambulance.
He walked over and is being set down. He may have injured an arm or something. And we'll check and give you a report just as soon as we can on Morgan Shepherd.
He gave somebody a good shot, Ken. It may have been Harry Gant, because the front end of his car had considerable damage, so he probably got a little whiplash or something.
Now, this is not the way you want to end the season. Morgan Shepherd, who is as tough and as determined a driver as there is in this series, having trouble here, getting collected in the dust, also apparently running into Harry Gant's car. We'll update that story as soon as we can. The laps now complete here in the Winston Western 500 stand at 34. 34 are down. We have a replay of what happened here from the in-car camera. Phil, let's take a gander at this.
Jeff O'Donnell has already ran off the racetrack, so that it absolutely, you can see there that you absolutely cannot see. There's nowhere to, Rusty Wallace has no idea where to go. Now he's getting through most of the smoke, and now he can see the racetrack again, but the cars behind him, they couldn't see a thing.
And, of course, if someone just even starts to get on the binders, the guy behind, he is in terrible shape.
Oh, that's probably what happened with Morgan Shepherd. Harry Gant probably hit the brakes, realizing he couldn't see, and Morgan Shepherd couldn't stop in time.
We'll get a report for you just as soon as we can on Morgan Shepherd. The standings in the race, with 34 complete. Waltrip is in front. Ricky Rudd is in second. Neil Bonnet is in third. Bill Elliott fourth. Jeff Bodine is fifth. Joe Ruttman is sixth. And Benny Parsons from 26 up to seventh. Tim Richmond, led earlier, is back in eighth. Rusty Wallace is ninth. Terry Labonte is in 10th. Richard Petty is 11th. And young Bobby Hillen out of Midland, Texas is in 12th. There have been 5 lead changes among 5 drivers thus far in the race. It looked for a while like we were on our way to a record. But instead, it's turned into a calamity here as you see the Rick Wilson car being towed away after it was thrashed around. Now let's go to the Harry Gant garage.
Okay, Harry, what happened out there?
Well, it was just somebody hit the dirt and I couldn't see. And I come out there and I went off the racetrack. I could see the back of Terry's car. I got off the track and I spun out and several cars come in direct in.
Got about all 4 corners crunched. Is there anything that can be fixed on this car, or are you out of it?
I'm out of it there. I'm kind of glad. This is about the worst racetrack I ever seen in my life. You can't see. It's dangerous, really, to try to run out through there. And it's absolutely like you cover your windshield up with a blanket.
Well, it's tough for the cars following behind in that dust, that's for sure.
Harry Gant very upset with this racetrack, saying it's like putting a blanket over the windshield out here today. We'll be back with more live coverage from Riverside International Raceway after these messages on the Superstation.
We're back at Riverside International Raceway, and here in the STP Pit Communications Center, these are the leading contenders at this point in our True Value Hard Charger Award competition. Walters is up at the head of the field under yellow. Rudd, Bonnet has moved up into third. These two guys right here have piled up the most points in that competition. But back in the field, we have kind of an interesting story for you. It involves the race for the Winston West Championship. It's a battle within a battle. The old guy, Herschel McGriff. You've seen him before here on TBS Sports. He's car number 04, and there you see him circulating under yellow. 42-year racing veteran, 58 years old and a grandfather. In 42 years of competition, he has never won a major championship. Today, he eliminated Bill Schmidt from contention for the Winston West title simply by starting the race. On the first lap, Chad Little split a valve cover gasket. He was second ranked in the standings. He spent a lot of time on pit road. It looks like Herschel may have that title wrapped up, but he has moved from 30th starting spot to 12th in the field. He may be our champion spark plug racer of the race. We are racing in Riverside.
36 laps complete as they go back to green, and there you see the leaders all bunched up. Waltrip in first, Ricky Rudd in second, Neil Bonnet in third as you watch it live here on the Superstation. Neil closes in on the Ford Thunderbird prepared by Bud Moore. Field rambling around turn number 9 with Elliott fourth, Bodine fifth, Ruttman sixth. Just as they came by the last lap, it was Tim Richmond who ducked onto pit road for about 8 seconds. Means he's all the way on the tail end of the field.
I'm not sure what was wrong, Ken. They were looking underneath the car, so he may have a rear end leaking or something like that, but he definitely has a problem.
Front 4 cars come by, and the Hendrick stable is not represented up there at the present time. Bodine in 5th, Ruttman in 6th, Benny Parsons in 7th, Rusty Wallace is in 8th, Richard Petty in 9th, and Bobby Hillin in 10th. Here comes Waltrip out in front. Two-time winner of this Winston Western 500 stays on the point. Richard Petty back out again, although his car has been crashed. Here is Ricky Rudd in the number 15 car, closing again. Chevrolet versus Ford for the lead. Around turn number 8. Back through the gears and up to 170 miles per hour here. Diving, almost blind beneath the bridge, just gently tapping the brake at the end of this long straightaway and then setting up for turn 9.
Ricky Rudd is a Junior Johnson sandwich right now. He has Darrell Waltrip in front of him and Neil Bonnet behind him.
Bill Elliott is back there in 4th. Behind that trio, here they are back for turn number 9. Bodine is making a move. He's trying to close in. Bodine trying to close up on Elliott a little further back in this game.
Well, that's a battle for 4th position right behind your 12 car who's in 3rd.
There they are, still side by side for the 4th position. Bodine on the inside the yellow car, and on the outside it is Bill Elliott. And Elliott for the moment is able to continue in 4th position. Bodine back to 5th. What is that, about 110 down through there?
About 130, 40 miles an hour down there.
Now here's Elliott through the S's. Here's a report from Chris Economac.
Well, the Rick Hendrick teams are having trouble here. Tim Richmond just made another unscheduled stop. His first unscheduled stop was for a flat left front tire, and now he's got 2 traction bars, Harry Hyde says, under the rear of the car, one of which is giving trouble. And every stop he's made, there's been a man get under the back to look at that problem. His quest for second place in the point standings looks chancy now.
There is an immense crowd here, as you could see, as they came around turn number 8 at Riverside today. They say it's as big as any crowd they've ever had, and it certainly looks that way from those grandstands up in the turn 6 and turn 8 area. We'll be following Chris's lead on this story involving the Hendrick cars. They're having their problems today after qualifying so very well. Richmond on the pole with a new record. Now all the way in the rear. Again, here is Ricky Rudd. The car number 15 looks inside of Waltrip as they come to the very critical turn 9. This is a turn that most drivers don't like. This is right where Rolf Stommelen was killed a couple of years ago in an IMSA prototype crash. Here they are out right against the wall. Driver's side against the wall. And that really has to get your attention, Phil.
It sure does, Ken. And turn 9 is getting so slick that if you bobble a little bit, there you are right up against the wall with your head bouncing off it.
Back they come through the S's. Waltrip building just a little bit of a lead. Wouldn't he love to win this for Junior Johnson? He is right up there in contention to win, of all things, the most popular driver of the year. He and Elliott have been going at it. I think there's a big late surge for Earnhardt as well. He said, my winning, there you see some of that crowd. The most popular driver award would be akin to the raising of the Titanic or finding Noah's Ark.
It may be a little ballad stuffing there, Ken.
Darrell Waltrip, despite some early problems, he's come to like this Riverside track. Here's what he says about it.
Well, I like this racetrack. I think it's on-the-job training. I've said this before. I've hit everything you can hit out here. I've hit every wall. I've been off on every turn. I've been in every dirt bank. I even got hung up in the mud up in turn 6 one time a few years ago. Jumped the guardrail, back in the wall in 9. I've done everything you can do. I think I even wrecked in the pits a time or 2. So by virtue of eliminating a lot of mistakes, I've been able to sort of improve upon my driving here, and now I feel like I get around here awfully well.
Well, the on-the-job training at lap number 40 has him out in front, and here you see Bodine in the number 5. He has now moved around Elliott and taken over 4th position.
Neil Bonnet moved around Ricky Rudd to take over 2nd position.
So the battles continue around the speedway, and it's a dandy fight that we're watching as Waltrip still holds on to first. Now here's Bodine skedaddling, getting away from Elliott, closing right in on Ricky Rudd.
Ricky Rudd doesn't seem to have as much strength as he had early on. Neil Bonnet got by him. I thought Ricky had probably one of the best cars on the racetrack, but he's still in 3rd place, so he's not too bad.
Further back in the field, Marcus is 9th, Richard Petty 10th, Bobby Hill in 11th. Jim Bound has come up to 12th position. Al Unser is in 13th, and Buddy Baker is into 14th position.
What a swan song, Ken, up front. You talked at the top of the show about how this is 32 off the racetrack. Another spinner out there as Ruben Garcia, one of the Winston West drivers, with a good bit of experience on this racetrack, gets a little bit of experience with the dirt here. He manages to collect things, get back underway. He may have to stop to check those tires. Garcia, of course, is one of the top short track drivers. He's a motorhome dealer out here. Oh, and he's off again. Car obviously not handling. Tires may be flat. I think we'll see Ruben on pit road. Garcia, yeah, the latest driver to get off course here at Riverside. Lead battle up front. There is Ricky Rudd battling with Jeff Bodine. Bodine seems to have come back to life here. They're out of sync on their pit stops and all the rest of that business, but now he's charging. But the story in this race is right out front. You talked about graduation day for these drivers. A lot of guys saying goodbye to old friends and moving on to new challenges. How about Darrell Waltrip and Neil Bonnet, both leaving the Junior Johnson stable this year? Their last race for the great grand old man of car owners, and there they are running 1-2.
21 cars are in the lead lap, Dave. And the battle up in front has 5 of them within a second. Now make it 6 as Ruttman is continuing to pull back into the picture here.
Darrell Waltrip opened up about a 5-6 car length lead over Neil Bonnet, so Waltrip seems to be superior right now.
Neil Bonnet has pulled himself into the 2nd position this afternoon, the teammate of Darrell Waltrip from the Junior Johnson stable. What kind of a race are we going to see out here this afternoon, Neil?
I think you're going to see a little bit different type of racing you've ever saw at Riverside, with the points championship out of the way. Now it's just strictly race. Only points a lot of the guys worried about is how many they're going to get when they go hunting. This right now, we're going to cock the gun on these things and turn them loose. That's the last race for me, the last race for Darrell, a lot of the guys, and all we got to do is bring Junior back that steering wheel. We're going to use up the rest of it.
Well, look what Bodine is doing. He has now moved around Rudd, and he continues to clamber up to the field. He's ready to challenge Neil Bonnet for 2nd position. Whatever the malady, it's been cured on car number 5 for Jeff Bodine from Chemung, New York, in the Rick Hendrick Chevrolet. And he closes in on Neil Bonnet, who turned his year around when he won the 500-mile race at Rockingham, North Carolina, the last time we were with you here on the Superstation. It's live from Riverside, California. Winston Western 500. Last race of the season, moving down toward the midway point. There's that number 29 car, George Fulmer, who is back on pit road. That's been having its problems today. Fulmer coming in another time.
And the biggest problem Jeff Bodine has is fuel mileage. If he can't run but 20 laps on fuel, then he's going to be in trouble if this lap goes for an extended period of time under green.
Well, he looks like he's ready to challenge for the lead right here. Here's Bodine, winner of 2 races this year, including the prestigious Daytona 500, trying to come down and clamber onto that rear bumper. He's perched right there in 2nd place as they dart out from beneath the bridge. And there you see those front 6, now 7 cars, as Benny Parsons has joined the throng up in front. Around turn 9 they go. Waltrip getting a little breathing room as he tries to pull away.
I think if Jeff Bodine can get by Neil Bonnet, that breathing room is going to be extinguished.
Here they are coming up to the outside wall and definitely on the move. Bodine is looking for some running room. There's Benny Parsons, who is in the 7th position. Ruttman is in 6th, Elliott 5th, Rudd 4th.
The biggest problem Benny had was in qualifying the first day, something happened with the transmission, and he wasn't able to put a lap in. He came back and ran the quickest time yesterday in 2nd round qualifying, which was about 12th, 14th overall. So Benny's got a good car. He's been running well, so I'd like to see him stay up in there in that hunt.
Neil Bonnet in 2nd, and Bodine in 3rd, and that's where the contest is at the present time as we watch them out of turn 6, down that straightaway that leads to turn 8 as they neglected turn 7 in the history of stock car racing here. They just don't use it. Negative camber corner. There's Ruttman's green and white colors of the Kenny Bernstein car. Back with the leader again, and you see the interval between 1st and 2nd place. Average speed is 112 miles per hour in the last lap for Waltrip. We'll have more of the action of this race in a moment.
Here in the STP Pit Communication Center, Riverside International Raceway. Well, Darrell Waltrip's starting to look like a guy we may need to nominate here shortly for Champion Spark Plug Racer of the race. He seems to be on top of the situation. I like the looks of Jeff Bodine. He's got a strong car. He can't get around Neil Bonnet, but if he does, I think he can reel in the leader. One quick note about his teammate, Tim Richmond, his ongoing problems. I just saw a crewman haul 4 shock absorbers over to that pit. Not the kind of change you want to make on a green flag, but that may be his suspension problem. They'll get a yellow and probably have a long pit stop to come. Bill Elliott looking pretty strong out there, but Waltrip is definitely the guy to watch here as he continues to dominate this race thus far, and we are getting close to the midway point in the event when we'll go to our Valvoline mid-race recap, bring you up to date on all the things that have happened here through the first 60 laps of this event. If you just joined us on TBS Sports, move for the lead, Bonnet inside. We've got a tremendous Junior Johnson team battle at Riverside.
Well, they sure want to win it for the old man.
Something's wrong with Waltrip.
And Waltrip is off the pace. He is now falling back to 3rd. There's Bodine, and Waltrip is making his way to the pits.
Definitely has a flat tire or something, Ken.
He's in. Darrell Waltrip on the pit road. Crew ready. Jeff
Left rear tire. Flat left rear tire.
Well, he's lucky to save it. Jerry Garrett is there.
Well, you're right. They're changing left side tires on Darrell's car. They're also going to put in 2 cans of fuel because he does need some fuel, but he didn't need to stop very bad. They're going to change those tires, and that's all. Get back out underway.
14 7/10 of a second, and Waltrip is back up to speed as he comes to turn number 1. Neil Bonnet now into 1st, Bodine 2nd, Rudd 3rd, Elliott 4th, Ruttman into 5th. 6th is Parsons, 7th is Wallace, going 8th is Petty, 9th is Marcus, 10th is Hillen, 11th Jim Bound, 12th is Buddy Baker, 13th is Earnhardt, 14th is Bobby Allison, 15th is Al Unser, and 16th is Mike Waltrip.
A lot of debris there on the back. It looks like the backstretch. That's part of a tire. That could be part of Darrell Waltrip's tire. I also saw Jim Bound come to the pits with an exploded left rear tire.
And George Fulmer had a tire go down as well. Fulmer limped in. You saw that blue and white car as they approached turn number 9. That was Fulmer who came in, and they changed tires on that car. No caution out. Thus far in the race, there have been 2 caution periods. We're still waiting for an update on the condition of Morgan Shepherd, who was taken to the field hospital here at Riverside International Raceway, and as soon as we have some information, we'll pass it along to you. We saw him walk to the ambulance, be strapped on the stretcher, and then taken from an incident involved in absolutely 0 visibility as they approach turn number 6. Now there's Neil Bonnet getting a chance to lead. Bodine is in 2nd, and this is a much more of a gambler's race here today. It's just who throws the stones out in front of you, and those pebbles penetrate, leave you with a flat tire and leave you way back. Richmond has been in. He's fighting his way back from the rear of the field, trying to get back in this race, and has a long way to go. We had 21 cars running the lead lap, just 3 laps back. Mark Martin is taking an opportunity. Mark Martin, who qualified 2nd at Atlanta and qualified pretty well here. His first race at Riverside since his rookie year in 1982. Back out here again. Considers it his favorite track, with the possible exception of Darlington. He has strange taste, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Mark Martin's an excellent race car driver.
Well, up in front, Neil Bonnet and Jeff Bodine pace this Winston Western 500 this afternoon, 311 miles for $400,000. And Bonnet, who has put things together at the end of the year with a remarkable win at Rockingham. Gina Witt's facility now stays about 8 car lengths in front of the Bodine team.
You know, the key for Neil Bonnet, Ken, it's your presence here at the racetrack. TBS goes live to Rockingham. Neil Bonnet comes out of nowhere, breaks a 49-race losing streak. Come here to Riverside. He's way back in the field, starts 12th. Boom, goes right to the front. I think he likes being on Turner Broadcasting.
There you see Tim Richmond, David. He's on his way. He's pulled up about 10 positions, and I say about, as we watch him here getting around car number 78, one of the West Coast stars, Jim Robinson. He was way up in the Winston West points a year ago, 2 years ago as well. Battled for the lead in that division. Here you see Allison in the number 22 car, and that is the battle for 14th as car number 3, Earnhardt, closes in on him.
Dale Earnhardt seems not to be quite as strong after that altercation he had with Rick Wilson. That may have damaged the suspension on his car.
Then you have to, when you're driving herd on this racetrack, like on a corner like this, where it's negative camber, it goes the wrong way. It's very hard to control a car anyway. If there's anything bent in the suspension, you've really got problems. Bodine moves in again on Bonnet. Number 12 Bonnet, number 5 Bodine, as they come back to the start-finish line.
Bodine was right out against the wall. You couldn't have put a piece of paper between his car and the wall.
That shot as they go over into turn number 1. Here's that number 78 car that we were just talking about. Jim Robinson from North Hollywood, California, in trouble for the moment. Let's see if it's going to bring out a caution. He's parked in a rather itchy spot.
He's waving his arms. He's okay. He may not be able to restart the car, though.
Meanwhile, Bonnet stays first. There's Bodine right with him, and Bodine gets a little lower line in turn 6 and closes ground again. Horsepower battle coming up. After turn 8, he who has can take. Jerry Garrett, any word on Morgan Shepherd?
Well, Ken, they've taken him downtown for some x-rays at one of the local hospitals here. He's complaining of neck pain. He didn't seem to be in too bad of pain. We hope he's okay, but that's the report.
Thank you very much. That's the story on Morgan Shepherd. We saw being carted out of here. He is having some neck pain. They're going to take a look at him, and if there's any later report, we'll try to get it for you and pass it along. Bonnet first, Bodine second. Here we are again in turn number 9. Live on the Superstation. Caution is coming out. They are now racing back to the line. Coming back to the stripe.
I think they'll be both be coming in the pits.
Indeed they are.
Yeah, I think you'll see all the leaders coming in the pits.
Not taking any extra time here at all to get on pit road. Here's Ricky Rudd coming in, Elliott, and Ruttman. Here's Jerry Garrett.
We're down here with Neil Bonnet right now. He's got some damage on the back of the car. We see they're changing the left side of the tires. They'd like to change the right sides under this yellow as well. They're putting in 2 cans of fuel, 18-gallon cans each. Now they're taking off the right side tires, putting those on. The tires that are coming off seem to be not badly worn or anything like that, and they're making no chassis adjustments. He's quickly underway. Almost got into Buddy Baker there.
Chris?
Yes. Bodine's car has just been serviced. Tires on both sides. And rather frantic down here in pit road as Ricky Rudd moves out. And now Tim Richmond is about to come into the pit. Richmond's car apparently back in good shape, according to crew chief Harry Hyde. This has been a race where nothing has gone as planned. Richmond is just coming in now, and he's getting outside tires. It's quite a madhouse down here along pit road. Back to you.
It is the 3rd caution of the day. There you see the Richmond car, which had been a little loose out here for some time. This pit road here at Riverside leaves a lot to be desired.
Well, it sure does. It's very narrow.
Watching the work on Tim Richmond's car. Under caution, 3rd time in the Winston Western 500. More in a moment. At Riverside International Raceway, after the usual pit road shuffle, here's how the standings go. It is Neil Bonnet having himself the lead. Jeff Bodine into the 2nd position. Rudd in 3rd, Elliott 4th, Ruttman 5th, Parsons 6th, Rusty Wallace is 7th, Richard Petty is in 8th. There you are with Rusty Wallace in the Aluguard car. He finished 4th out here in June with 51 laps complete. He's looking very good. After much speculation, the site of Riverside's replacement has been chosen, and Bob Barsha took a look.
These hundreds of acres of Southern California grassland may not look like much to you, but to the people of Paris, California, that's pretty important property behind me. Just about 10 miles south of Riverside International Raceway, these hundreds of acres of grassland in about 20 months and $15 million will house the newest superspeedway and road course complex in the United States.
Present plans call for a 1 3/4 mile speedway, plus commercial and industrial property and public recreation facilities. But city officials in Paris see even greater benefits to the town's 10,000 people.
The identity that we have been searching for will be brought to Paris through the raceway, and the resulting impact for the city from an economic standpoint will be that which will be so beneficial that we could not otherwise replace it with any other endeavor.
Though the project is not without dissenters, Mayor Carmen Cox thinks everyone will come around.
My belief is that most of the people of Paris are in favor of. There's some people in the surrounding communities, they're afraid of the noise impact and the traffic impact. But I think those things will be solved. And once they learn more about what is this plan for the city of Paris, I think they will agree that we're doing the best.
So stock car racing goes to Paris. We'll have to build the Eiffel Tower for the control room, I would presume.
They should be going back to racing right here coming off turn 8, Ken.
51 laps are now complete. Third caution period of the day is over. Here's the field lining up. Bonnet, Bodine, Elliott, Ricky Rudd going for the green as it comes out down that back straightaway where they start them here, not at the start-finish line. And on the break, Bonnet speeds out in front. Bodine coming right after him. And the rest of the field hurdles down beneath the bridge.
Ricky Rudd, Bill Elliott side by side. Ran out of racetrack. Rudd ducked in behind.
There's Dale Ruttman's car, making a very good run here today, picking up another position as they come around to complete this lap. Under green, Bonnet first, Bodine second, Elliott third, Ricky Rudd fourth, fifth, Ruttman, sixth, Parsons, seventh, Rusty Wallace. Back to the S's, and there goes the dust again. That heavy fog rises over those S turns, making it a very dangerous situation for these drivers as our live coverage of the Winston Western 500 continues here on the Superstation.
That caution flag was a tremendous break from Darrell Waltrip. He made an unscheduled pit stop for a flat tire. Now he's right back up in the hunt.
Here they are, back to turn number 8. Bonnet looking to pull it off another time at the end of the year. He's been the guy they've been talking about. He went a long time before pulling off that victory at Rockingham. Now he looks like he's ready to do it another time here this season. Tim Richmond on the 1986 season has the most wins at 6 with Earnhardt 5, and now you're back with Rusty Wallace another time. Here he is in that straightaway, leading down to turn number 9, that short kink. Here they are, just lifting the lead. Actually, you're trying to go through here almost flat out, don't you?
You back off the throttle here. There, he just grabbed third gear for turn 9.
Into the bottom, the Aluguard car, Rusty Wallace. Back they come around turn number 9. One of their big supporters and fans, Dan Pastorini, who was over here at the track yesterday and spent much time with him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the pits today. Up over turn number 1. Wallace trying to get a little bit more out of that car to close up on Parsons. Wallace is a good all-around racer. Whoops. Where do we go here?
It's a blind second or two.
I think you're on asphalt and you're back in dirt track racing. Here he is closing up for turn number 6. Just barely in front of Rusty Wallace is the Benny Parsons car. Your brother's looking pretty strong out there this afternoon, Phil.
He is. He's run a smooth race. He's got not a mark on the car. He's steadily moved up from his 26th starting position, and hopefully he can be in contention for the win.
Back up in front. Here we are with the leaders. Into the straightaway another time. Let's see if anybody has the power to contain Neil Bonnet. The man who has the opportunity right now is Bodine. Jeff Bodine in car number 5 as they come to full speed. And Bodine is willing to stay right there in the slipstream as they come down to turn number 9. The Hendrick car pulls up on the Johnson car. Junior Johnson has had a lot of champions, had 6 champions here in the most recent years. 3 of them, of course, with Darrell Waltrip, who leaves him after this race. Had such high hopes with Neil Bonnet. Hasn't been quite as strong in the Bonnet camp as it has been with Waltrip.
Jeff Bodine closed right up on the back bumper of Neil Bonnet. We could be looking for a pass pretty soon.
It definitely looks like Bodine has intentions of scooting through here and trying to take that first position away. Bonnet holding him off. Bonnet, among the most verbal of all the drivers, he can really tell you what a car is doing and give you.
Now, Ken, as we watch the leaders charge around here, I'm impressed at the speed they're running, the pace at this point in the race. Whoa, car off, 64, in trouble out there. Rick Mcrae is one of the Winston West drivers in the field here today. He's off in the dirt, jams it back into gear, waits for the traffic to clear. Mcrae, that's one of the big problems when you pull out of that dust. You want to make absolutely certain that there's nobody coming. And And we'll take another look at what happened here as Rick Mcrae comes down into the S's. That's been the bugaboo here today. Just got a wheel off the racetrack, wasn't able to save it. Off into the dirt he went, and the car spun around on him. Sometimes they can save it when they make that move, but obviously the traction in the dirt is not nearly the same as it is out in the pavement, and it's cost Mcrae here as he gets off into the dust. He's back underway, may have to make a pit stop to check out the tires, but for the moment at least, Winston West driver Rick Mcrae is back into the fray in his number 64 automobile. Action continuing here at Riverside, California. The speed of the leaders is very impressive to me. They've just made a pit stop. They've got fresh tires, and they're in good race trim. But they made the last lap at 115.6 miles an hour. Now, keeping in mind that Darrell Waltrip qualified here with what he thought was the perfect Riverside lap, and then Tim Richmond went out and shattered it at 118. They're only 2.5 miles off pole speed, almost halfway through this 300-kilometer grind. Very impressive, and I think it speaks well for both those cars up front. The Neil Bonnet entry and Jeff Bodine, and here's more trouble.
Well, there's a save, but it's going to create some problems for the man behind him. Back on track is Mark Martin in the 0-2 after he went tearing off across the terra firma here at Riverside, California. Here you see the number 3 car of Earnhardt trying to get up underneath Allison. They're further back, and they continue their own battle back in 14th. Again with the leaders. Here's Waltrip, or rather here is Bonnet still in first with Bodine in second. I can't believe what they're going to pull the trigger on that number 5 car and send him up through here. He stays, he waits, and of course that's the mark of a good driver. Not to get over anxious, but to wait it out and then make your move. Don't use your equipment up until it counts.
And it appears as though we have 8 or 10 exactly equal cars. Nobody seems to seem to be able to get an advantage on anybody else.
We mentioned Waltrip. He is currently being shown in 13th position. We're past the halfway point, past 60 laps, and we'll give you a rundown and a resume on what we've had happen out here in the first 60 laps of competition shortly, as we continue to watch Neil Bonnet driving a very savvy race. A guy from Bessemer, Alabama, who rejoins Raymock Racing for 1987. Here's Neil Bonnet. He says he's getting comfortable out here at Riverside, California.
I finally got to where I feel comfortable on the racetrack, and this is the first race at Riverside I've ever used this new transmission that lets you shift without using the clutch. And, you know, I'm one of the guys that it's hard for me to run road course. For this particular transmission in the car, I never have to touch. Once I take off pit road, I never touch that clutch pedal again. That allows me to race like I've always done. Brake my left foot, throttle with the right, and use both hands to drive the race car. I don't have to worry about shifting gears anymore with the clutch, so it's kind of turned me loose and lets me really get after the race car, and that's helped me more than anything.
Here they are, side by side, and the new Jericho transmission isn't helping much here. Bodine has found just a little daylight, and he presses on the inside as you watch it live here on the Superstation. Jeff Bodine goes back out in front. It is Bodine by 3 car lengths back to the line.
You know, Ken, that transmission that Neil Bonnet was talking about is some kind of a piece. It, like he said, you absolutely do not have to use the clutch. I've been running a lot of IMSA races this year, and I've used it all year and have not used the clutch yet.
I think we've just seen what we expected, Ken, in Bodine moving up to take the lead. I'm not convinced that that's not the strongest car out here on the racetrack and has been all the way. But remember, there is a potential problem for Jeff Bodine. He took the lead away from Tim Richmond right at the start of the race. He was firmly in command. They were talking about a long pit stop strategy, a late pit stop strategy that would let them make only 3 stops. But the fuel pressure bugaboo bit him and made him go to the pits early. The yellows have gotten them back in sync. Bodine has been able to bring the car back to the front. It's a very strong race car when it's got fuel. The question, I think, is whether the fuel pressure problem will reoccur here if we run for a long time under green. If we get an occasional yellow, that could be the key to Jeff Bodine winning this race.
Dave, let me make a correction. We're running into lap 59 right now. The moment we had them up to 62, it is lap 59 that they are working as we get toward the halfway point and watch the 1984 winner of this event, Jeff Bodine, now drawing away from Neil Bonnet in second place. Jeff's finishes out here at Riverside in this event have been remarkable. He came here in 1982. He finished 11th. In 83, he was not a performer. Then he came in 84 and won it. And he was 6th last time out. So Bodine is finding himself to be a pretty good racer here in Southern California. Neil Bonnet in second position with Bill Elliott third, Ricky Rudd in fourth, Ruttman in 5th, Benny Parsons 6th, Rusty Wallace 7th, Richard Petty is 8th. In the 9th position is Dave Marcus. Up to 10th has come Tim Richmond with Bobby Hill in 11th. We'll see you back in a moment. As we come to the halfway point, the trials and tribulations of Neil Bonnet continue. Car number 12 slowing down. He has been running up in front, but now seems to be off the pace a bit. Phil, what do you suspect?
I would suspect a flat tire. The right sides look okay. It must be the left side tires that are giving him a problem, because he still it's not the engine, because he's still running. So it must be a flat tire.
Bodine first, Elliott now second, Rudd to third, Ruttman to fourth, Parsons to fifth, Wallace up to sixth, and Neil Bonnet on pit road. Jerry Garrett. As we watch Neil Bonnet complete his run, he comes back on the track from the pits. Very good stop on Neil Bonnet. The Tim Brewer crew efficiently getting him back out. We had that at about 14 seconds in a way. As we watch Bodine now trying to hold off Elliott, Rudd, Ruttman here this afternoon in this contest to decide the entire Winston Cup Series for 1986. All comes down to one race. And the championship decided in the next to last race in favor of Dale Earnhardt. And thank goodness for him it was then. He's been beaten up out here pretty savagely. He's still running, however. Earnhardt still out here on the racetrack, back in 15th position. Behind him is Terry Labonte in 16th, and Al Unser is being shown in 17th. As we look a little further back in the standings, 60 laps complete, and the winner's circle place for Harry Gant, well, it's not to be his today. Unfortunate. Let's go to the STP Pit Center.
I think it's high time we got some names in the hat here for who's going to be the champion spark plug racer of the race. My nomination thus far, not Jeff Bodine. He started with a fast car. He should be up front. Elliott, no surprise to see him there. Rudd won it last year. Ruttman is a contender. If he wins the race, I'm going to change my vote. But right now, I'm going to put Benny Parsons' name in the hat. Started this race 23rd, way back in the field. He had all the lead in the right place, thanks to his brother Phil. He has charged up into 5th spot. He's running right with the leaders. And this track owes him one. Remember when we came here in 1983, started to rain late in the race? Benny was leading it, got into the wet stuff, spun it around, lost the race. I think maybe Benny's got fire in his eye here this afternoon.
Of course, Tim Richmond helped him that day, Dave, you'll recall. They had a real confrontation up here as the rain started.
Ken, I'd like to thank Dave Despain, because, you know, Benny and I are going to Las Vegas tonight, and we can use the money for the Champion Spark Plug race of the race.
There's the battle further back between cars number 11 and 22. That's 12th place. Waltrip is in 12th. Bobby Allison is in 13th. And he's trying to nip up in there and take it away. And directly in front of them, I think, is the 88 car of Baker. Now, Baker is 11th. I haven't talked too much about the old Crisco kid today. Here's Buddy Baker in that number 88, maintaining the 11th position. And there's the 28 car of Chad Little in trouble another time. This is the guy who's been running just 1 year on the Winston West circuit. He had a couple of other years of experience in other forms of automobile racing and brought himself to 2nd place in the Winston West standings, right up there behind Herschel McGriff. But it's not his day. McGriff looks like he's capped this season off. This is the last race for Winston West in the 14-race schedule with a championship, the first in his career. 58-year-old, you believe that? 42-year veteran Herschel McGriff wins his first major championship here today with a Winston West crown.
Herschel McGriff started the 1950 Southern 500, Ken. That shows you how long he's been around.
Were you there that day?
No, I was several years later till I came around.
Let's go back to Dave Despain at the STP Pit Center as Jeff Bodine continues to lead here this afternoon. David?
Well, Ken, the question on my mind right now is still that fuel situation for Bodine. I thought we might get a yellow there with the Chad Little situation. Any of those yellow flags are going to be a break for Bodine because they can come in and fill the car back up. But the yellow did not come out. Here's the replay of the spin that I thought might bring out the yellow because we saw that car stopped on the racetrack right on the verge as Chad Little seeing his championship hopes disappear today, and that's too bad. But they were able to get that car clear of the racetrack, and for the moment, we remain under a green condition. And that continues to raise that issue, that question for Geoff Bodine. What is the fuel situation? Now, we are obviously in hopes that he's going to be able to solve that problem and continue to run strong throughout the afternoon. Bodine came here with his teammate Tim Richmond, the two cars that have so totally dominated pole qualifying all year. They've won all the poles, and he and Richmond had their own little competition going for the pole position. As it turned out, Richmond, who started up here at the top of the thing, has fallen way back into the field. The handling problems on Tim Richmond's automobile are continuing. They have not been able to fix it, and at last check, he was outside the top 10. But for Geoff Bodine, this has been a great day thus far. He started in that second row. He went right to the front. Remember, and we're going to see it a little later, how effectively, how efficiently he just made that charge past Tim Richmond and took over the lead. Then the fuel problem, back into the field, couple of pit stops, gas up the car, and now Bodine is back out front. He has asserted himself at the midway point here in the event. If they can keep that problem under control, Bodine looks like the man to beat here this afternoon, and it would be the second time he has scored a victory here on TBS Sports. He won the race here a couple of years ago when we came to Riverside to bring you the action live, and now this afternoon he has definitely established himself as the man to beat. 22 laps he has led of the 65 that have been run in the event here today. The season for Geoff Bodine started off very, very strong. You recall that emotional victory in the Daytona 500, the young guy who came down from the New England area. We call it New England, actually Chemung, New York. Great racing family. His dad runs the racetrack up in Chemung, and the kid's been racing for so many years, along with his brother, Brett Bodine, who made a serious run at the Grand National Stock Car Championship here in 1986, finished second to Larry Pearson in that competition. Bodine went south, decided he wanted to run with the big boys. Took him a while to pay all those dues and move up through the ranks, but then the marriage with Rick Kendrick, and it's produced tremendous success. Here's the sixth-place battle. Whoa, see how squirrely they get out here? That's Ruben Garcia, who had that earlier problem, number 32. He spun off the racetrack at about that same point. He just about did it again. Here's your battle right here. Watch Richard Petty. Talk about a guy with motivation here this afternoon. He's won 200 races in his career, but he hasn't had one since that 200th. It's been over 2 years now since Richard's been to victory lane. We talked about that $180,000 winner circle program, the money that goes to the car owner, and in this case the car owner is Richard Petty. If you win a race the following season, you get $180,000 in appearance money. Richard has not won one yet this year. Now, Petty, of course, is the grandfather in terms of stock car drivers on this racetrack. Might want to check that. Maybe Herschel McGriff would rival him. Now, indeed, Richard has started more races here than any other driver. 23 of these Winston Cup stock car battles under his belt on this racetrack. He only missed one. That was back in 1965, and it wasn't his choice. Chrysler Corporation boycotted NASCAR stock car racing in that season, and so Richard didn't come and run this race, but that's the only break in his series of consecutive starts here. That is Joe Ruttman. Now, Ruttman had been up there in fourth spot. He has made a green flag pit stop, and not long after that last yellow, that's going to hurt Ruttman and drop him back into the field. Guy who came from the West Coast, from Redlands, Uplands, California, and has cut his teeth not only at Riverside, but on all the West Coast racetracks. Has done, here's Bonnet in again. Now, remember, he made that stop, what's it been, 4 or 5 laps ago, and had to change those left side tires. We might recall that moment for you. Bonnet, of course, was running second at the time and had just been passed by Bodine. He slowed suddenly, came in, and made what looked like a routine pit stop. They did it in 14 seconds. He is in danger of going a lap down here because Geoff Bodine, as you see, is storming off turn 9 as the race leader. Just a handful of laps ago, he was battling with Neil Bonnet for the lead in this race. Bonnet has made 2 unscheduled pit stops, and as a result is almost a lap down here. And at Riverside, that means 2.67 miles behind. It's an awful lot of turf to make up on a difficult twisting circuit. So it's Bodine with the advantage for the moment, and it looks like he is not only leading the race but dominating the event at this point. We're going to be back to see if he can make it continue to happen when the Western 500 continues.
And there is a change of leadership. Car number 5 came very slowly to turn number 9. Geoff Bodine is going into the pits. Bill Elliott is appropriating first place. Ricky Rudd is in second. Benny Parsons has come to third. and Richard Petty up into the 4th position. Now, we've had a circuit breaker problem here at the control tower. We've lost all of our monitors, but all we had to do was say the magic word, and here they are back on again. We're about to throw it to Dave Despain. We've got a car spinning off the track up in turn number 9. It's car number 23. That is the Mike Waltrip car, which is looped. He is well off the track. Let's see if he's going to bring out a caution. We're just back with you here at Riverside with a change of leadership. As Bodine pitted, we'll get a report from the pits. There's been a driver change on Bill Schmidt's car from the West Coast. His number 73 came in. We believe that Derek Cope took over in that car. We're waiting for confirmation on that now. You're looking at number 23 just resting out here in turn number 9, motioning for some assistance. And here comes Bill Elliott. Caution is out. The caution is coming out for the 4th time today, with Bill Elliott in front, Ricky Rudd in second, and Elliott immediately dives onto pit road. Rudd comes along with him, as does Benny Parsons. What a day Benny's having. But the big story, I think, is Richard Petty. He got nailed early in turn number 9, spun around, collected, I believe, the wall, got the car pretty well torn up, and Richard is still very much a factor in the race, currently in 4th place. How about that for the old-timers, Phil?
I'll tell you, Richard, he says he doesn't like road racing and is not a very good road racer, but he's showing today that he, in fact, is.
Well, there you see the activity taking place on pit road.
There'll be 4 tires for everybody, and this is a good break for a lot of people. And it really helps Jeff Bodine, who made that pit stop. It'll get him right back up in position to go for the win.
And there you see the Earnhardt car in. It took a beating on the left door. He got nailed out here in one of these skirmishes where there was absolutely no visibility. Al Unser is just pitting his car. Bobby Allison, there's Petty's car, number 43 rolling back out. Here comes Rusty Wallace, and what a dandy day Rusty's having. Arrington coming back out.
Ken, this battle we're watching right here has been going on the racetrack all day. Now it's in the pits. Earnhardt and Allison have been battling for about 14th or 15th spot ever since Earnhardt had that early crash. Petty may be the story of the race. Are you ready to nominate him for Champion Spark Plug Racer of the Day yet, Ken?
You bet.
All right, well, good enough, because the old guy's really getting the job done. And how about it? 2 times in a row. He was phenomenal in Atlanta a couple of weeks back. Took that thing right up to the concrete for 265 laps or so and finished 2nd place. Best Richard Petty run I've seen in years. And here he is right back up in the thick of it again as we are under caution at Riverside International Raceway, just past the midway point in the event. We've had this massive power failure that's affected us somewhat here today, but we're running on STP power down here in the pit center. We're in good shape. And old Richard looks like he's got the STP special cranked up pretty well here this afternoon. Big question remains Bodine, and we're going to get to that as soon as we get that power problem completely sorted out and find out if, in fact, it was the fuel situation that brought him back to pit road again. Here is Petty. You see the nose all beat up. He hit the turn 9 wall pretty hard, although they did not have to make any extensive repairs on the car in the front end. Wasn't pushed in against the tire or anything like that, so they just changed the tires, fueled him up, sent him back out there, and Richard has demonstrated that he definitely knows what to do once he gets back on the racetrack. We are under caution. He is currently 3rd. And Benny Parsons has now been shown as moving up into the 2nd position on the track, ahead of Petty, but behind Bill Elliott. They are scrambling the positions, of course, as the leaders start in and out of pit road. We might update you briefly on the Tim Richmond situation. He had fallen way back up deep into the field with the handling problem that was originally diagnosed as a traction bar in the back of the car, and later as possible shock absorber difficulties. They've worked on it extensively on all of these yellow flags, and he is now starting to climb the ladder, in fact, under yellow for the moment. The 25 car of Tim Richmond is in 5th spot. We'll see if he can manage to stay on the racetrack until we go back to green. If so, and if the car is indeed healthy, Richmond may be back in the thick of it. And look at that. We're right back to the battle that we started with, Bodine and Tim Richmond. I think at this point it would be wise for us to take care of those of you who might have just joined us on TBS Sports. Let's go back and recap what happened in the first half of this event. Here's Ken Squad.
Time for our Valvoline mid-race report. At 60 laps, called halfway in this 119-lap event, we'd had 4 caution periods in the race. When the race got underway, Tim Richmond had set a record in qualifying to be on the pole, and his teammate was alongside for the ride this afternoon. It was going, whether it was Darrell Waltrip on the outside. His teammate had thought he was going to be there, and then in the final moments of qualifying, it was not to be. As things worked out, Richmond took the lead quickly. Then he was to succumb later on to some problems with his car, and it's been running loose. The big problem throughout the race all afternoon has been a problem with the dust on the racetrack. I think Harry Gant has said it better than anyone. He said it's like a blanket over the windshield, and he did not like it at all. The Hal Needham car has come out of this race. Let's take a look at the standings as matters rest here with the first half of the race now complete. You have the Bodine car in first place at halfway. This was at halfway at 60 laps. And in the second position is the car number 12. That was the Neil Bonnet car. Then came Elliott. Ricky Rudd was in fourth. And moving along next, Joe Ruttman was coming well with Benny Parsons and Rusty Wallace. Richard Petty in eighth. Dave Marcus was holding 10th and doing very well. And Bobby Hillen up into 11th place. Let's take a look at the incident that was probably the most major in the first half of the race. It happened just out of the S's as the field was rolling up through there at about 120 miles per hour in an absolute blinding dust storm. Car number 33, Harry Gant's car, was wrapped. He went into Morgan Shepherd's car. Morgan Shepherd has been taken to the hospital. I think he's pinched something. He's hurt his neck. He took a lot of whiplash in this ensuing crash that took out the Morgan Shepherd automobile. Phil Parsons is here with me. Give me your summation of the first half of this race.
Well, Ken, you would think that some of the cars have been showing a lot of dominance, but it's been 5 or 6 different cars. So as of now, I'd say it's anybody's race. That caution flag came out. It was a real break for Jeff Bodine, who made an unscheduled pit stop. He's right back in the hunt. Tim Richmond has moved right back up in the hunt, but Neil Bonnet is a lap down now. Our second place man at the halfway point is now a lap down for 2 unscheduled pit stops.
Green flag is coming up, and let's go back to the action here at Riverside International Raceway. Field is away. Under green. Resuming another time as they come down beneath the bridge and head for turn number 9. You see the Elliott car in front, and look at Bodine closing up through as Elliott leads. It was Bodine scooting to the bottom. 73 laps are now complete. 73 of the 119 are complete, and Bodine is definitely showing a lot of muscle and a lot of power out here this afternoon, Phil, as your brother Benny rides in second place.
I saw Ricky Rudd on the inside of the racetrack. He's making an unscheduled pit stop. Bill Elliott leads down into turn 2. Benny Parsons in second. Jeff Bodine in third. We'll see what kind of strength Jeff Bodine has now, Ken.
Ricky Rudd is on pit road. Ricky Rudd brings the number 15 in. And they're going to tires on that one. And apparently, the mixture of the pebbles on the asphalt here today are just not conducive to good racing conditions. And here's another man coming in to change left side tires early in the going here. Still halfway in the race. They're going away on all 4 tires. So one went down. They weren't sure which one. Let's get a report from Chris Economaki.
Oh, the placement of the cars in the pits here has caused problems. Here's Tim Richmond's pit, Ricky Rudd's pit, Jeff Bodine's pit, Bill Elliott's pit, Dale Earnhardt's pit, and so on. And when the caution flags come out, these drivers are coming in here. They're running into the other man's pits. A hose was run over a minute ago. Wheels and tires are banging forth. And some of the pit chiefs got together here to complain to the other guys about encroaching on their turf down here. That's all over with now, but it was really a madhouse down here, and there may be some penalties for those hoses that will run over. Now let's go further down pit road to Jerry Garrett.
Well, Chris, the reason for the demise on Neil Bonnet that we couldn't talk about earlier because of our power failure is because he got the transmission stuck in 3rd gear. He came in and knocked it into 4th gear. Now he seems to have 1st, 2nd, and 4th, but no 3rd. The reason why you're seeing a lot of these drivers up front, like Neil Bonnet, who you don't normally see there, is a new transmission called the Jericho transmission. Lets the driver shift without using the clutch. These guys are used to keeping both hands on the wheel, and that lets them do that.
Thank you, Jerry. We just saw Ricky Rudd going a lap down. He came back in the pits. They're a little extended, and he has been taken down by the leaders. Now, the 25 car, Richmond, who fell way back, is now being shown back to 4th position. He's another serious contender. Elliott in first, a previous winner here. Bodine in the number 5 car in second. Parsons, the number 55, in third. And Richmond is in 4th.
As we settle back into the action here, Ken, we have a new leader, Bill Elliott, out front for the first time today. I'm not sure I would want to be Bill Elliott, given the way things have gone here today. Look what's happened to our leaders in this race thus far. Richmond led, handling problems, dropped off the pace. His car seems to be fixed, and he's charging back up. Walter, pass for the lead. Inside goes Bodine. Can he get around? Tight battle. Bill Elliott puts his foot down. Side by side, they come off turn 9. If Elliott can hold that line, he should be able to make the pass, because when they come to the next left-hander, he'll have the inside. Bodine bumping, rattling, banging fenders. Good race for the lead. Elliott and Bodine in a battle up front here at Riverside. Right behind him, you see Benny Parsons. There's the move, and Bodine takes over the advantage. Elliott drop kick back to second spot. Parsons third. Richmond fourth. What a four-way battle up through the S's, Ken.
And here comes Richmond, Dave. Richmond is definitely on the move as they continue to scatter up there in the S's just behind these front four. Number 5, Bodine in first. Then number 9, Elliott comes next. Rest of the field thundering in him. Richard Petty's 43 is closed up on those leaders. There you see the 55 of Parsons in third. Then the 25 of Tim Richmond in fourth. The 27 of Rusty Wallace is in fifth. And Richard Petty is in sixth. Ricky Rutt is on pit road. Ricky Rutt brings the number 15 in. And they're going to tires on that one. And apparently, the mixture of the pebbles on the asphalt here today are just not conducive to good racing conditions. And here's another man coming in to change left side tires early in the going here. Still halfway in the race. They're going away on all 4 tires. So one went down. They weren't sure which one. Let's get a report from Chris Economaki.
Oh, the placement of the cars in the pits here has caused problems. Here's Tim Richmond's pit, Ricky Rudd's pit, Jeff Bodine's pit, Bill Elliott's pit, Dale Earnhardt's pit, and so on. And when the caution flags come out, these drivers are coming in here. They're running into the other man's pits. A hose was run over a minute ago. Wheels and tires are banging forth. And some of the pit chiefs got together here to complain to the other guys about encroaching on their turf down here. That's all over with now, but it was really a madhouse down here, and there may be some penalties for those hoses that will run over. Now let's go further down pit road to Jerry Garrett.
Well, Chris, the reason for the demise on Neil Bonnet that we couldn't talk about earlier because of our power failure is because they got the transmission stuck in third gear. Came in and knocked it into fourth gear. Now he seems to have first, second, and fourth, but no third. The reason why you're seeing a lot of these drivers up front, like Neil Bonnet, who you don't normally see there, is a new transmission called the Jericho transmission. Lets the driver shift without using the clutch. These guys are used to keeping both hands on the wheel, and that lets them do that.
Thank you, Jerry. We just saw Ricky Rudd going a lap down. He came back in the pits. They're a little extended, and he has been taken down by the leaders. Now the 25 car, Richmond, who fell way back, is now being shown back to 4th position. He's another serious contender. Elliott in first, a previous winner here. Bodine in the number 5 car in second. Parsons, the number 55, in third. And Richmond is in fourth.
As we settle back into the action here, Ken, we have a new leader, Bill Elliott, out front for the first time today. I'm not sure I would want to be Bill Elliott, given the way things have gone here today. Look what's happened to our leaders in this race thus far. Richmond led, handling problems, dropped off the pace. His car seems to be fixed, and he's charging back up. Walter, pass for the lead. Inside goes Bodine. Can he get around? Tight battle. Bill Elliott puts his foot down. Side by side, they come off turn 9. If Elliott can hold that line, he should be able to make the pass, because when they come to the next left-hander, he'll have the inside. Bodine bumping, rattling, banging fenders. Good race for the lead. Elliott and Bodine in a battle up front here at Riverside. Right behind him, you see Benny Parsons. There's the move, and Bodine takes over the advantage. Elliott drop kick back to second spot. Parsons third. Richmond fourth. What a four-way battle up through the S's, Ken.
And here comes Richmond, Dave. Richmond is definitely on the move as they continue to scatter up there in the S's just behind these front four. Number 5. Bodine in first. Then number 9, Elliott comes next. Rest of the field thundering in him. Richard Petty's 43 is closed up on those leaders. There you see the 55 of Parsons in third. Then the 25 of Tim Richmond in fourth. The 27 of Rusty Wallace is in fifth. And Richard Petty is in sixth.
I'll tell you, Ken, Jeff Bodine has an extremely strong car. I think right now it looks to me like the only car that could run with him possibly is Tim Richmond. If Tim Richmond can get by Benny and get by Elliott, I think we may see a race.
just behind those front 6 is another story developing. Here's Bodine going back down into turn number 9 on car number 71. Dave Marcus has stayed out of trouble all afternoon, and the Helen Ray car now finds itself 7th overall, and Bobby Hillin is 8th, and he could move up in the point standings, put himself into a position to go on the winner's circle, as Kyle Petty's having problems here today. Dave Marcus is definitely on the move.
I'll tell you, Dale Earnhardt is on the move also. He has got by Bobby Hillin and Dave Marcus, now up in the 7th position.
Indeed, that puts Marcus back to 8th, and Hillin drops to 9th. There are the front drivers in this race, back for turn number 6. And they have really picked up the pace as this man, number 5, Bodine, snookers them, gets out in front, tries to draw away. Elliott trying to stay with him. Bill Elliott, after that great season, 1 year back, winning 11 races. He's a lot more relaxed this year, isn't he, Phil?
Yes, he is. He's still had a good year under most everybody else's standards. He's won 2 races plus the big Winston race in Atlanta, and close to $800,000-$900,000, but it doesn't compare much to last year, but it's a good year for everybody else.
Well, they said before it started there wouldn't be a car out here without a ding in it before the afternoon was over, and that's pretty much the case, with the exception, I think, of number 5. Now look at 55 being challenged by the 25. That's Parsons in 55, and Tim Richmond right behind him as they come back into this big sweeping number 9 corner that leads to the start-finish line. Down to the inside, Richmond trying to get through there. Looked like your brother burned a little rubber off.
Looked like he was spinning the tires a little bit off of turn 9.
The one thing you have to be careful about is getting wheel spin there and wearing those tires down before you want to. But on the other hand, you've got to be concerned that right behind you is Tim Richmond, ready to gobble up that spot.
Benny has driven an excellent race today. He needed a little bit of strategy because he started so far back, but he moved up very quickly, and they really didn't have to use the strategy that they had thought about.
There you see Wallace, Petty, and Earnhardt. Earnhardt in the, getting off the track just a bit there was the number 25 car, Tim Richmond. Gathers it back up. One more caution if they can keep this field together. I mean, this will be a crapshoot right to the finish this afternoon. There's the front 4. Bodine cannot draw away from Bill Elliott. He sits right on him, perched on the rear deck. With number 55, there is Parsons 3rd, followed by Tim Richmond in 4th. And for the moment, there's a little bit of breathing room developing here on Jeff Bodine's car.
He's opened up about a 10-15th car length lead over Bill Elliott. Bill Elliott's got about 4 car lengths back to Benny. Tim Richmond is right on Benny's bumper.
They were concerned about tires coming into this race. Usually that's a concern you hear a great deal about, but there was a little more talk prior to this event, Phil.
Yes, there was. The fact that there's a lot of dirt on the edge of the track, that if one car gets off the racetrack, then that creates a problem for a whole lot of other cars, as you saw when Jeff Bodine got off the racetrack.
Benny Parsons said, your brother, that he expected frequent tire changes in this race.
Keeping good tires on the car is going to be a problem because, these cars are heavy and they spin so much coming off the corners that you're going to wear out the rear tires. I think they're going to wear it badly, so we have to keep good tires on the car if we're going to have a chance.
And you saw him spinning those tires in turn 9 just in the last lap. The front 4 pretty much together here. Bodine showing a little bit of that power that Randy Dorton has developed. They've got a great engine program with the Hendrick Racing stable, but Elliott is still very much a contender. We got a car spinning and coming to a halt. That's the number 48 machine dropping off the racetrack here of Ron Esau of Lakeside, California. And again, that terrible cloud comes around him and then floats out across the racetrack. Here's a replay of what happened to Ron Esau.
Esau just got off the track going through turn 2 and slid off in the dirt. There's a pretty good runoff area there, so you're not really in danger of hitting the wall.
No sign of a caution as yet. Let's go to Chris Economac.
Well, last year's winner, Ricky Rudd, just spent a long time in the pits, and what they did was they take this broken left front brake caliper off. You can see here where the caliper broke, and they've set him back on the track now with 3-wheel brakes. He has no brakes on the left front wheel. Perhaps Bill Parsons can tell us what kind of unwieldy car he's got on the racetrack.
Well, Chris, he's got a big problem there. Brakes are probably the most critical thing here. Brakes and transmissions at Riverside. Ricky, with only 3-wheel brakes, he's really basically just going to have to ride it out.
We'll be back with more of the live action of the final race of 1986, the Winston Western 500 from California, after these messages. Great battle for 6th place going on at the present time here at Riverside. Richard Petty in a real dogfight. Richard Petty going with Dale Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace out here, and for the moment Earnhardt is getting around Richard Petty, taking that 6th position. Those three have been running nose to tail. Wallace pulls away a little, and Earnhardt up to 6th. Petty goes back to 7th spot. That just happened as we came back on the air. We have now a total and laps complete of 81. 81 of 119 complete, and look at this battle as Earnhardt turns the wick up and comes after Rusty Wallace in the 27 car.
Earnhardt drove in beside Richard Petty going into turn 9 the last lap, and he has the same ideas about doing that to Rusty Wallace.
Here they are back for turn 8. Wallace, the Missouri driver, trying to fend off the United States champion. I noticed that Furman Bisher referred to him in the Atlanta paper today as the world champion. When it comes to stock car racing, that's absolutely correct.
NASCAR racing is the epitome of stock car racing, and he is the champion.
Ed Hinton calls this car number 3 the LA Raiders of stock car racing.
All you have to do is take a look at Chocolate Myers down there on the pit crew, and you can see why.
See number 23, Mike Waltrip, coming off the track as these 3 cars, the 27 car in 5th, the number 3 car of Earnhardt 6th, and Richard Petty continue their own battle further back from the leaders. Up in front, Bodine still is the man to watch. Here are those 3 cars, and here comes Earnhardt making another charge going to turn number 1. Let's see if he's going to get Wallace here. Indeed he is. There's the pass that will put Earnhardt into 5th, drop Wallace to 6th. Richard Petty stays 7th.
Earnhardt had position on him going in that corner.
We are watching precisely the reason that Dale Earnhardt is the Winston Cup champion, Ken. Not because he's racing for 5th out there, but because he got that car all beat up in a wreck that he didn't have anything to do with earlier in the event. He just got bashed. They went into the pits. They worked on the car. They made unscheduled pit stops. They fell all the way out of the top 20. They came to Riverside with the championship all wrapped up. They've won the big money. Their motivation was just to come out here and have a good time. So what do? They scramble. They work. They never quit. They get the car back in shape. Earnhardt goes back out there, charges back through the field, gets around Richard Petty and Rusty Wallace right there, moves into 5th, goes after the leaders. That team never quits, and that's why they're the champions.
Got a smoker out here in car number 98 that looks like it may not last today. Jim Bound out of Salem, Oregon. The car sponsored by a car wash. He's born a car wash right now. Number 98, Jim Bound, brother of Chuck Bound, in trouble, slowing down after making a good run here. He would like to make a concerted effort in 1987 into Winston Cup racing. Today, it's not going to be a finish for Jim Bound. Youngster, 26 years old, slowing down here, bringing the car in. He'll come in the back door. If you come in through there, they usually go right to the garage. If you use the shortcut and come back on pit road, they penalize you 30 seconds.
Right. We better change for 3rd position. Tim Richmond got by Benny for 3rd, so he's right on Bill Elliott's back bumper. And Bill Elliott has closed up on Jeff Bodine.
So Bodine is 1st. There's Elliott 2nd, and here comes Richmond. Back with the front 4.
Bodine could not pull away like I thought he could. He opened up a little bit of a lead when he got the lead, but Elliott has run him back down.
The circumstances may be tires there.
That's right.
Alan Kowicki getting overrun by this quartet that continues to lead in the last race of the season. Live here on the Superstation. Now notice the horsepower going to work on Bodine's car, just whipping out in front. 84 laps complete. Let's get ready to check in with the pit reporters. Jerry Garrett, what's happening in your end?
Well, we checked down here with Junior Johnson to see what the reason was that Darrell Waltrip wasn't moving up. He had some handling problems earlier, but they say the car is handling now. The problem is that he's behind Buddy Baker, Terry Labonte, and Bobby Allison. Can't get by him. Let's go down to Chris Economaki for more.
Well, I'm in Jeff Bodine's pit, and that fuel pressure problem that he had still prevails. But the yellow flags have been saving the team. even though the tank is holding up gas for about 30-some laps, the car will only pick up fuel for about 23 or 24 laps. And what has happened is these yellow flags have come out before 25 laps have come by and then stopped and filled up again. They're hoping for one more yellow now at the halfway point in the distance that remains. So he's very much in contention, but if he's got to go over 25 laps on a tank full, then he's in trouble.
Rusty Wallace has just spun, and I think Richard Petty has crashed with him, Chris. Rusty Wallace's car looping around has come to the inside of the track as we're getting that report on the Bodine car, and that may be the... Do you think this will bring out a... Let's see, we're watching as the 27 car gets fired. He's come back, and we're looking to see if the other car involved is also going to get going.
Too much. There's Richard Petty. He's back
underway. So that caution will not come here, Chris, that Bodine needs. The time that Bodine won, if you recall, he won in the darkness. He only led the last 4 laps. Well, he's had an opportunity to lead a lot of this race. Question is, will he be around at the finish? Meanwhile, take a look at this. Richmond down on the inside, sideways, still sideways, as he fights with Bill Elliott, and Elliott is able to maintain the position. And here comes Benny Parsons back up on Tim Richmond. Richmond's taken some more abuse, some more damage. As you see the flanks of his car, you can hardly read the number now. Richmond falling back to third after he made a banzai attack on Elliott. And let's take a look at a replay of the earlier incident here when Wallace, this is the replay up in turn number 9. The 25 car got loose.
Tim Richmond, he just got in the throttle trying to drive by Bill Elliott, and the tires would not hold it. He got sideways.
That takes me right back to the year that Bill Elliott won his first race on this racetrack. You alluded to it briefly earlier, Ken. Tim Richmond and Darrell Waltrip came into that corner side by side, exactly the same situation, battling for the lead. And you know what happened? Richmond spun Waltrip right off the racetrack. Benny Parsons spun later, and Elliott, the man you're watching right there, went on to win the race. Richmond is driving this racetrack like a man possessed. He's driving it just the way he qualified it, with that incredible run that earned him the Busch Pole Award for the entire season, on and off the racetrack. Now he's got 41 other cars out there to bounce off of, and one of his motivations, we talked about at the top of the show, that is once again very much alive, is that race for the $80,000 difference between second and third in the point standings. Waltrip is buried back there in 11th. Richmond is charging toward the front of the field. He could win that prize if he keeps charging.
Let's take a look at how Parsons won that Busch Pole. The number 25 car would set that remarkable record. He clambered through with a 118.24 mile-an-hour run here, and he used up all the racetrack, and I mean he used it all up. 2 laps the faster the 2 of the qualifying mark, as he just skipped over all the curbing, flew around this track, and he uses everything, going lock to lock, it would seem, in the car. He's thrilling to watch. He's a dramatic driver of the old school. Now watch this move in turn number 9 as he was about to complete the lap. This was from his qualifying run to establish a new record that Waltrip had held from 1983 until 3 days ago. Right to the wall. Looked like he almost brushed it.
Kim, what was hard to believe is Tim Richmond actually blew his engine going in turn 9 on his qualifying lap and still set a track record.
And some people had said that the way he was running at that time, that in the Busch polls for this year, you notice that he tied Bodine and he had more second places, so the $30,000 additional prize goes to Tim Richmond this year. Bill Elliott back to only 4 after that great season he had last year. Harry Gant picked up a couple. Terry Labonte picked up a single pole position in 1986, and there are the other folks that came up with pole positions on the year, including Benny Parsons.
That's right. He'll put him in a Busch Clash in Daytona Beach.
Meanwhile, up in front, Bill Elliott is fighting a great race here this afternoon as he tries to get himself back into this event. And here's Richmond, still all over the racetrack and closing on the leaders. We'll be back with the finish shortly. 88 laps complete here at Riverside International Raceway, and there's the man to watch, Earnhardt. Although his car is battered, he's up to 5th position, and he is closing on Tim Richmond. There it is, the Earnhardt car closing up on the number 25 of Tim Richmond, and they'll be fighting for 4th position. What a run this Earnhardt has made today. The driver's side of the car shattered and battered, but he is still running this car as if there wasn't a thing wrong with it, and apparently there isn't. Everything underneath is all right, although what happened earlier would lead you to believe that that car couldn't be that strong. Interesting point about this car that has been made. They work on their own machinery. They build everything from the ground up. And they've got some stuff in this car that may not be in other race cars that we're seeing here this afternoon.
That's right, Ken. Just about everybody else goes and buys cars from either Banjo Matthews or Dick Hutcherson. If Mike Laughlin, Darrell Waltrip is slowing in turn 9.
Waltrip is coming down. Darrell Waltrip's machine in the 9th corner is being overtaken by Richard Petty, and he's coming onto pit road. Something amiss on Waltrip. Slowing down. Bodine is in first. Elliott is in second. Parsons is in third. Richmond in fourth. Earnhardt is fifth. Here's Jerry Garrett.
We're down here in Waltrip's pits right now, Ken, and there must be a lot of debris out there on the track because Waltrip came in with that right front tire just shredded. His brother Mike just came in, looked like a grenade had gone off inside the car. There's all kinds of pieces of debris run over and shot out from under it. Buddy Baker had a similar problem.
15 4/10 of a second, and Waltrip is back underway in car number 11. Here's Bob Barsha with an update for us at the Motor Week GM Goodwrench report. Bob Barsha, let's find out what's happening in the rest of the world of motorsports.
Well, thank you, Ken. Moments ago on the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida, Didier Taze of Belgium won the Super V race. Series leader Mike Groff, the leader going in, finished 4th in that race. It wasn't enough to stop Taze, and Didier Taze is the 1986 Super V champion. It's all a part of the big Sports Car Club of America weekend in St. Pete. Brian Till won the Skip Barber Pro Saab Series finale, but that wasn't enough to overtake series leader Willie Lewis of Portland, Maine. Lewis finished 6th. That was enough to cement his Pro Saab championship. Now let's go to two wheels. Last night at Ascot Park in Gardena, California, just up the road from Riverside, the United States Long Track Speedway Motorcycle Championship was decided in dramatic fashion.
1983 Long Track World Champion Sean Moran is known as the Miracle Worker for his many comeback wins. Moran still cast that magic spell. On the last lap at Ascot, defending champ Lance King passed Moran but blew up. As King pulled up, Sam Ermolenko swept past to grab second, while up front, Miracle Man Sean Moran cruised to his first American Long Track Championship.
We've got action back on the racetrack now. That's it for now for this edition of the GM Goodwrench Motor Week Illustrated Racing Update.
Jeff Woodine, the man everybody's keen off from right now here at Riverside in the last race of 1986. Out in front, trying to win it for the second time. Bill Elliott very much there, and the strong factor has closed up a little. From the in-car camera of Rusty Wallace in 8th position. He's trying to run down Bobby Hillen now. Remember that Wallace was off the track up there toward turn 6 in a near calamity. Gathered it back up, and he's closing in on Hillen and making a run on him to take a position back. Just moving by, the Alucard car is getting the 7th position from Bobby Hillen as they come down here into turn number 9.
Yeah, he made the pass. He beat him down in turn 9, so Rusty Wallace has appropriated that position.
Bobby Hillen still having a great day. He's back in 8th. Joe Ruttman is in 9th. Richard Petty is in 10th. Waltrip reported back in 11th. Here's your leader, number 5, Bodine. But his lead seems to be going away. He has tremendous horsepower in the straightaway area, but notice that number 9, Elliott is back in 55. Parsons is there. Richmond's car seems to be running loose again.
Yes, it does. At one time, I thought he had the best car on the racetrack, maybe other than Jeff Bodine, but Benny got by him just as we broke for the last commercial, and there he is. Right now, he's opened up a little bit of ground on Earnhardt. Earnhardt, 2 or 3 laps ago, was right on his bumper, but Richmond is not quite running like he was.
The blue and yellow, number 3. Now here comes Richmond back underneath the car number 55. That is the Ricky Rudd car, lap down. Remember, he had trouble earlier out here. Had to pit, finally went a lap down, made 2 stops. And here comes Tim Richmond on the outside of Benny Parsons.
I think Benny's coming in the pits. He's slowed down going. Yes, he is. He's coming in the pits.
Parsons.
He's awfully slow, though, Ken.
Car number 55 in the pits as 25 comes by. Let's see if this is that final stop. No. He's going right back to the garage area. Oh, that's unfortunate for Benny Parsons, who gave that car a terrific run today. Jackson Brothers have nothing to be unhappy about this run.
He ran awfully well. He started way back and went right to the front. Something must have happened mechanically, and he's done for the day.
Another car that gave it a good shot today was Buddy Baker, and he is out. Jerry Garrett's with him now.
Well, Buddy, you're out of the race, obviously. What put you out?
The gear lever broke off the side of the transmission. The car was running really good, I thought.
you know, we were ahead of Terry Labonte and people like that that had won out here, and Earnhardt and people like that. So, you know, I can't be disappointed. I come out, I had a good time, and I found out that I can run a road course a little better than I thought I could.
You look like you've been working hard, though.
Well, what happened? I got the blower for the rear end cooler right behind the seat, and they were blowing through the little crack in the back of the seat, and it might have burned my back off.
Thanks, buddy.
Buddy Baker with a real hot seat in car number 88 today. Out of the frying pan and so forth.
That's a big back to be burned, too, Ken.
Here's number 5, Bodine, still in front of Elliott, and now he has built that lead up again. Elliott had clammed it down to about 10 car lengths, but now it's back to well over 20 between cars numbers 5 and 9. Richard Petty has come in for a final time on pit road and gone back into the action. I wonder if Chris Economaki can give us a report on that lead car. Everything copacetic down there? Are they all running the way they want to and ready to take it home from here, Chris?
Well, they say that everything is fine, but they need that yellow flag to put more fuel in it. Even though there's enough fuel in the tank to go the distance, it won't pick it up. So they've got their fingers crossed. As far as Bill Elliott is concerned, they told me a little bit ago they changed engines this morning, just on a hunch. And it certainly looked like it was a good hunch.
Indeed it was. Bobby Allison, 6th place car, is now on pit road and quickly taking on tires. So you're looking at the interval between 1st and 2nd. Bodine is there, and just behind him comes Bill Elliott in 2nd place. And we'll be back with more of the action in a moment. Live coverage at Riverside International Raceway in California of this action-packed race now has us back under caution. 5th time today. Car number 64 involved in an incident at turn number 9 that put his car into the outside wall. It came back around. It's there now. It spun all the way around, ended up the way it started, and they have a wrecker out there now to remove it from the turn 9 area. It came at the appropriate moment for everybody in the field to make that pit stop they needed to get back in this race and run to the finish. 119 laps is the distance, and right now they're completing number 95. Let's go to Jerry Garrett.
Well, we're down here with Benny Parsons, and from 2nd place to the garage area, that's pretty quick.
What a disappointment, Jerry. The car was super. It really was. The guys did a good job. Something happened to the transmission. We had a little bit of trouble with it the other day. We worked on it. We thought we had it fixed. Obviously, we didn't.
You look plumb tired out. Did the tool suit not work or what?
Oh, yeah, it worked fine. I feel fine. I'm just a little disgusted right now. This is just a continuation of things that's been happening all year. We run well, we get up in the top 5, and all of a sudden, we see the checker flag in the air, and we're in the garage area. It's disappointing.
We better check with your brother up in the booth now. He may need to be relief drove up there.
He can handle it. I can't come up there, Phil. Go ahead, baby. You're doing good.
How does he know I'm doing good, Ken? He wasn't listening, was he?
He probably was. Now let's take a look at who's out of this race. Here's the attrition thus far in the event as they bring in the Mcrae car, the number 64. Derek Cope was one of the first cars out of the race. Johnny Krebs is out. Rick Wilson in that crash. Morgan Shepherd, Harry Gant. Didn't much like this track at all today. A total of 13 cars, including the Parsons car just out by our count, have fallen by the wayside. There haven't been that many engine problems. Seems to be a lot more problems with the shifter on the cars. We've had a couple of cars badly beaten up. We've had one driver, Morgan Shepherd, taken to the hospital just for a checkup after he had a hard crash with a Harry Gant machine. We'll be back with the finish of this Winston Western 500 from Riverside, California, after these words. The field has just taken green, coming around to complete the 97th lap this time. Terry Labonte in the 44, Richard Petty in the 43 are on the tail end of the lead lap, and they're about to be overtaken and put a lap down by car number 5, Bodine in 1st place, Elliott 2nd, Richmond 3rd, Earnhardt 4th, Wallace 5th, Ruttman 6th, Allison 7th, Bobby Hillen in 8th, all in that lead lap, Darrell Waltrip in 9th.
Tim Richmond just drove by out of Bill Elliott in 2nd place, so Richmond is now in 2nd place. Dale Earnhardt just passed Bill Elliott. I believe Dale Earnhardt's up to 3rd place.
And there may be something to miss on the Elliott car. There's that 44 and the 43 staying just barely in the lead lap. Richard Petty being shown in 11th position on the tail end of the lead lap. Here's Bodine trying to put Petty a lap down. Here comes Richmond in the 25, Earnhardt in the 3, and there's Elliott back to 4th. The 4 leaders into the back straightaway. Line up behind Petty. Here comes Bodine, bringing with him his teammate.
Tim Richmond pulled out to help Jeff Bodine propel him by Richard Petty, so they should be shed of him and be going after Terry Labonte to put him a lap down.
And Richmond came all the way out to take a look at first place.
I think Tim Richmond can smell that lead. He can smell the wind, so he's going to go for it.
It looks almost like the circumstance when your brother looked like he might be coming home up in front, and Tim Richmond was a factor in that race. I wonder if these two will get together at the end.
Well, they're teammates, but I don't think they realize they were on the racetrack.
Not right now, they're not. Here comes Richmond. Richmond takes a look. Here we come to turn 6. Off the curb comes number 3, Earnhardt. Back they come with now Earnhardt, a bigger factor than ever.
Dale Earnhardt has drove a tenacious race today. He's beat and banged the car, but he's right up in there, right on Tim Richmond's bumper.
Yeah, he took a hit earlier that had him down on the canvas. He's come right back into it. Here he is closing in those 2 leaders. Chris Economaki.
Well, you're down here in Jeff Bodine's pit, and that yellow flag came out at just the opportune moment for him. And when they jacked the car up, they changed the outside tires first and leaned the car to the right, and the gas tank filled up. Then they brought the jack around and jacked up the right side of the car, so the car leaned to the left, and they put another gallon or so of gas in it, and they're all standing here with their fingers crossed saying it's going to be very close that that car makes the checkered flag lap. Back to you.
That's the one to watch as the laps continue to trickle away here. Now there are 99 laps complete. 99 laps complete, Chris. As we get down to the end of it, 119 laps the distance. Terry Labonte about to go a lap down to Jeff Bodine in the 5. No, Labonte is able to hold on for the moment. Not the story as they get into turn number 1. Bodine just won't quit. And he's going to use Terry Labonte's car as a bit of a buffer here between himself and his friend Tim Richmond. Here's Richard Petty's number 43 in.
Definitely an unscheduled pit stop, Ken. That'll take Richard Petty right out of contention unless he can catch a late caution flag.
Indeed, he is out of that as he was just about to go a lap down. A tire problem here and all the way around because they're never sure which tire it is, so they change all 4. Situation like this. Now that's unfortunate for the Inman crew. Second place at Atlanta, last time out for Richard Petty. Still looking for win number 201, and he is away. Back with the leaders. And they have now, all 3 leaders, pulled around Terry Labonte in his last ride in the Billy Hagan number 44. Here's Earnhardt trying to close down on Bodine number 5 and Richmond in second place. Final moments of the event. It would be incredible if Dale Earnhardt can pull this one off this afternoon. But he's done some amazing things like lapping the field at Atlanta. I always talk about this as the most competitive racing, and he just made it look like a short track where he had something on the rest of the field at Atlanta 2 weeks ago.
He made a shambles of the competition in Atlanta, and it looks like today he's got an excellent chance to win the race.
Elliott 4th, Wallace 5th, Joe Ruttman in 6th, Bobby Allison in 7th. There's Earnhardt's number 3. He and Richard Childress, they are just plain unique. According to Ed Hinton in the Atlanta paper the other day, when they got to talking about why they got together, and they were talking about what it was that made the chemistry work, and it was Childress who just said, I like the man. We get along. We communicate. And indeed they do. And they've made a team that not only is strong this year, but sure looks like it's going to be the warrior outfit of 1987 in Winston Cup racing. Earnhardt has been talking about how it feels to be in a race where points are not the issue. This is what he said.
Great. You know, it's great to come to California and have that championship locked up, and we can go out here and race and enjoy ourselves, really. The points put extra pressure on. It's, you know, you put that pressure on yourself, put the burden on yourself running for them points, but it's great to have them locked up, and we could come out to California and really enjoy that championship and enjoy just racing and try to win a race.
101 laps now complete. And Earnhardt has fallen back a little, Phil. Looks more and more like it may be settled between Bodine and Richmond here this afternoon.
Keep in mind, Ken, you talked about the Earnhardt lapping of the field to clinch the championship at Atlanta. But prior to that, at Charlotte in the earlier race, he was 2 laps behind. Oh, and Earnhardt ran off the racetrack, saves the car. You see the big cloud of dust behind him. Earnhardt got both the left side tires off into the dirt. Again, that's the same problem that sent Richard Petty to the pits just a couple of laps ago. Earnhardt appears to still be at full song as he comes down the backstretch and down into the corner there, but he is losing a little ground to Richmond and trying to make it up. He ran off the racetrack. At Charlotte, he was 2 laps down and came back and won the race. In this event, he had fallen to 19th place after he got the left side of that car all bashed in. And you get a look at that, I think, right here as he comes by. You can see the big dent of the number 3 there. He was 19th, a lap behind. He's come back to just, what, 10 car lengths behind Tim Richmond, who, similarly, had fallen to 11th in this race, a lap behind earlier on. They both made great comebacks.
10 automobiles remain in the same lap, and we've got a car smoking. It looks like Elliott's number 9 may be going away up in turn number 9. Bill Elliott. That's it for Elliott today. 2 years in a row this track has not favored him. A year ago, of course, it was a transmission problem that dumped him out of his championship battle with Waltrip, and it looks like that one is terminal. He's going right back to the garage area. The Harry Melling car, Ford Thunderbird, driven by Bill Elliott, will also be a DNF this afternoon.
That's a shame. Just like Vinny, he'd run hard all day, and he was in an excellent position to have a good finish, but it wasn't to be.
We'll be back with more from Riverside in a moment.
During yesterday's preliminary to this Western 500, a spectacular air show high overhead this racetrack. Today, from high overhead, you see the spectacular action that's right down here at ground level. The True Value hard chargers have charged to the front of this field. Dale Earnhardt is the guy who piled up the most points in that competition for running in the top 5 positions all season long. He's clinched the season-long championship. Jeff Bodine came into this race trying to hold on to second place in that season-long competition and the big prize money that goes with that. At this point, he is the leader in the True Value hard charger competition for this event. If he wins it, obviously, his second place is secure. And down here, Darrell Waltrip has moved up into 6th place in this race, and he's on the charge. Trouble on the racetrack, and we may be back under a yellow flag condition.
It's turn number 9, which has taken Jim Robinson's car. Here he is backing across the track, running in the 17th position out here. Robinson down across the turn 9 area. No caution as yet. Let's see if he can get it fired.
He's trying to, Ken. That's what he's doing with his left hand, trying to get the car fired, but it doesn't appear as though it's going to fire for him. They will have to throw a caution if he doesn't get it moving.
And you can see that he wants a push. They may have to go to caution right here. Let's get the story from one of the major runners in today's race that's out of it. Here's Jerry Gill.
Well, we're down here with a couple of drivers who are out of it, Ken. One of them, Bill Elliott. You were humming right along. What happened?
Well, this engine let go going into 9. I went downshift to 3rd, and it just came apart.
That's kind of a downer way to end the season, I guess, isn't it?
Well, that's life. You know, we've had a good year, you know, with a good help of course and Harry Melling, and I think next year will be a good year for the Thunderbirds, and I just hope we can just get it all together for 87.
Okay, best of luck in 87, Bill. Another driver who's going to hope for better luck in 87 is Mike Waltrip. He had a chance to move up in the rookie battle. What happened?
Well, rookie battle and Winston Cup points as well. We could have went to 17th, but it didn't work out. The beginning of our downfall, we went into 9 here and exploded a right rear tire just as you make that little left-hand corner, and gave me quite a ride and quite a thrill. But after that, I believe that closed the exhaust pipes up when the car bottomed out and eventually blew the motor up. I'd like to tell all my fans and friends, if I could, back on the East Coast, that we secured sponsorship this weekend with the Southern California Food Distribution Center, Queen of Tarts, and we will be running all the races again next year. So it's been a very enjoyable trip to California.
Okay, thanks, Mike. The leaders all pitted. Waltrip has stayed on the track. Back onto pit road came Bodine, Richmond, Earnhardt in a flock. Car number 11 has elected to stay out here. Now, just before this caution period, Phil, Waltrip was just 1 point ahead of Richmond, holding on to second place in the point standings. And let's not forget, that's a major battle for another $100,000 here today.
Well, it sure is. I think Darrell Waltrip still will come back in the pits. I'm not sure why he didn't pit then. But if he does come into pits, then that will be a big disadvantage for him.
We'll get that story in just a moment and be back to green conditions to finish it up for 1986 after these words. One lap to race. 106 laps complete, 117 remaining. The situation is this. There was a real race on pit road. It was won by Tim Richmond. He will start directly in front of Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine. Darrell Waltrip, however, did not come in. He stays out on the track and is the overall leader of the race. Richmond has taken on some rubber. He may be in a position to win it. Let's get more on this story from Chris Economaki.
Well, the pit stops by Jeff Bodine and Tim Richmond were routine, except Bodine's crew had trouble getting the right side tires off, and he stayed in the pits longer than Tim Richmond, and as a consequence, Richmond got ahead of him on the pit stop exchange. However, both cars are in great shape and have enough fuel to go the distance. The question now is, what about Darrell Waltrip? Let's go down pit road now to Jerry Garrett.
Well, Chris, we asked Junior Johnson that very question. What's his pit strategy? Why didn't he come in? He said it's simple. You pit, you go to the end of the line.
So that's the gamble. He is staying right up there. Now, again, there's two cars in front. Mark Martin's number 02. Martin was the other car involved with number 64 in that altercation up in turn number 9. So his car has been blunted, his Ford in the front, and Terry Labonte's number 44. All right, we're getting set to the start. Ready for green flag to fall. Here comes the pace car out, and here they come, 4 wide.
Down they come charging. The question, I think, for Darrell Waltrip as he tries to hang on to this lead is not so much fuel but tires. The guys on both sides of him have fresh rubber, and Waltrip has elected to stay out on the old skins, and right there, he has fallen all the way back to third spot in the flicker of an eyelash. Richmond storms into the lead. Earnhardt goes to second. Here comes Bodine up the inside, and the front four are scrambled.
And it's not over as Earnhardt leans on the inside. Here comes Bodine into it. Out of turn number 9, down to the line, side by side on the outside. Number 25, Richmond. On the inside, it is Earnhardt. Back they go to turn number 1. Let's see who's going to give here. Somebody will have to. Still side by side. Richmond takes first.
He moved over to block Dale Earnhardt that time, so Dale wants to get by and get by quick. I think the fact by Darrell Waltrip not pitting, he is getting... Whoa! Earnhardt through the dirt.
Right off wood, and he shortened that corner up.
I think Darrell Waltrip does not want to win the race. I think he's trying to finish second in the points. That's why he stayed on the racetrack.
He had led earlier, so he got the 5 bonus points for leading long before this juncture in the race.
As Junior Johnson said, I think he was just afraid of getting back in the pack and not being able to get by a lot of traffic and losing those positions in between Richmond. That's right. So he just wants to finish second in the points. He has given up a chance of winning the race.
Well, it's evident here that the way the tire situation is that he'd have been overrun with 12 laps to go as they came to it. Here come the front 3 back underneath the bridge, and Bodine takes a look on the inside of Earnhardt. It's not to be this lap, and look at Richmond pull away. Now Bodine on the bottom of the racetrack. What a move by Jeff Bodine. He's right down, almost tagging. I think he may have put a fender into car number 3 and pulled back into second place. Bodine again this afternoon. Here is Earnhardt. Now third, Bodine is second, and leading in the event is Tim Richmond. Time running out on this Winston Western 500. 4th place, Waltrip. 5th place, Wallace. 6th is Joe Ruttman. 7th is Allison. 8th is Hillen. 9th is Al Unser. 10th is Labonte. 11th is Richard Petty. 10 laps to go. 10 to go.
I think Bodine and Earnhardt definitely got together, because I saw the evidence on Bodine's car as they came by here, Ken.
Pretty hard to hide anything like that. They are just throwing away all caution at the end of this race. With less than 10 laps now, here is Richmond, and that lead that he enjoyed for a moment, that's disappeared as Bodine gets back into it really hard, up to within 2 car lengths at turn number 8. Back to 170 miles per hour. Long part of the race course here. That straightaway just seems to go forever. It gives you a lot of time to breathe and a lot of time to think about what would happen if your brakes give out when you get to the end of it.
Ken, aren't we back to where we started here 108 laps ago? Tim Richmond, the pole sitter out front, his teammate Jeff Bodine all over him trying to make the pass. That's the way we started this race. Now we're down 9 laps to go. They're running in the dirt. That's where Tim Richmond started on Thursday out here in his qualifying run. Right there they are, the teammates back where they started. The difference this time is that they've got the champ, Dale Earnhardt, lurking right there at the back door.
Back they come through turn 1. Richmond by 2 car lengths. Can he stay there in front of Bodine? Bodine looked in the last couple of laps like he had enough power that he might be able to deal with him.
I think that's the $80,000 question right now for Darrell Waltrip anyway. Can Bodine get ahead of Richmond? That may be the difference between second place and the point standings, Ken.
Here's Richmond coming up through turn number 6. Tim Richmond, who won this race in 1982, and he's had good finishes here until last year when he was way back. But he had a first, a fifth, and a second in a 3-year period, which tells you he can really get around. And of course, he really made his name first in Winston Cup as a road racer.
Tim Richmond is an excellent road racer. He won the race at Watkins Glen earlier this year, the only other road course on the schedule.
I had a chance to ask him the other day what the worst part of this course was for him, and this is what he told us.
Well, really, the most uncomfortable part of it is coming through the dogleg here, coming to turn 9. As you know, most of our racetracks, we run the other way, and here we're just going the opposite, and we're the closest item to the fence, going in there at probably 70, 180 mile an hour, and it gives you a little touchy feeling. You think twice about going in there. So turn 9, where I have the most concern for.
Tim Richmond seeking his 7th win of the season. Still staying that 2 car length advantage over Jeff Bodine. Big day for the Hendrick Racing Stable. Up into turn number 6. Laps trickling away. On the counter, 111 of 119 complete. I think Earnhardt can get back into this one. Wow, is he wild up there at turn 6. Number 50, Al Unser, is off the track as he exited from the bridge area, almost directly across from us at the start-finish line. The number 50 car, the Dingman car, comes to rest. He tore up a tire and then some there.
Caution flag's out, Ken. Caution flag.
So the caution is out. This will bunch them up again, and let's see who's going to take the gamble on coming on pit road here.
The gamble that Junior Johnson took the last time appeared to be working because Darrell Waltrip was holding in 4th position.
That's all he needs to finish 2nd overall in the standings. Fire is beginning to develop on the back end of Unser's car number 50 across the way. Al has climbed out, the 3-time Indy champion of car number 50, the Dingman car, and they're sending a fire crew over there to him. He's in just about one of the most difficult positions to get to after you come down that long back straightaway. As you approach turn number 9, he's on the outside of the track. Couldn't get to the inside before smoke began to roll out of his car. Big plans for that team next year. Not sure who's going to be the driver, but for sure they are going to be serious about competing for the Winston Cup title in years to come. So we still have a few laps to go, and we'll be back to see who wins it in just a moment. 113 of 119 laps are complete. If it were to end right now with Richmond first, Bodine second, Earnhardt third, Waltrip fourth, then Waltrip would win 2nd place in the Winston Cup point standings for 1986 by 11 points. He came into this race with a 21-point advantage over Tim Richmond in 3rd. He sure doesn't need to lose another position here, but Joe Ruttman would like to help Tim Richmond all he could right now. Joe Ruttman is running in 5th, just behind Waltrip, and Bobby Allison is in 6th. Bobby Hillen is in 7th. Laps trickling away as we get down to the finish, and there's as much at stake now, in fact, as far as money's concerned, as Dave Despain pointed out at the top of the program. It's not just the $400,000 that's up for grabs here. You can figure it as $1 million if you want to talk about who goes into the planned winner's circle, plan 1, plan 1A. It's a couple of $1 million they've got to decide about here this afternoon, and some of it right here in these last few laps. 2nd place in particular, Waltrip has said, hey, if you can't have 1st, go for 2nd. On the other hand, in the old days, it was Bill Schindler that said, 2nd place, that's just losing. Chris?
Well, I just talked to Rick Kendrick, who owns the cars driven by Jeff Bodine and Tim Richmond, and I said, Rick, if Bodine passes Richmond and puts that $200,000 in jeopardy, would you put a hold on Bodine? He said, no, I don't care what it costs. They just have to race.
Well, that's the attitude that you expect. That is not the attitude that you'll hear in Formula One, where they're under contract, and you pretty much know at the start of the race who is to be first and who is to be second if it comes down to that kind of thing. 1 lap to green is the report that's now being given us. Indeed, that's it. Let's go to the STP Pit Center. Dave Despain.
Ken, as we watch these guys battle at way over 100 miles an hour for hundreds of thousands of dollars, quick memory, 1958, first Grand National race here. They ran it backwards. It took 6 hours and 17 minutes for Eddie Gray to win the race. The guy who finished 12th was Jack Rounds. He borrowed his girlfriend's car, 57 Chevy, brought it out here, finished 12th, and they drove it home with $150 in their pocket.
I wonder if they're still married. Probably did. Was she there to see the car race that day, David?
Yeah, she was the crew chief.
She was the crew chief. I see. Gee, I don't know how it got a ding in the fender there, my dear. Getting set for the start. On the restart, Tim Richmond first. Coming up next, the NEA special. Whose school is it? A WTBS special next on the Superstation today. If Ruttman passes Waltrip, Darrell Waltrip's margin slips to just 1 point, by which he would take second place from Tim Richmond.
We have to realize that both Joe Ruttman and Bobby Allison in 5th and 6th have fresher tires than Darrell Waltrip.
And that could happen. They could put him down. There's the green out, and here we are settling down for the finish of the Winston Western 500 here in California this afternoon.
I think Jeff Bodine will try to beat Tim Richmond in turn 9 if at all possible.
Well, this is where he's got to do it, right here. Down they come. 114 laps complete. Here comes Bodine looking for any kind of margin by which he could move around the 25. It's not to be on the inside. You have to hang the whole car down in the dirt as they come off the corner. Up to the inside, a little lower line for Dale Earnhardt. And as they come back to the line, Earnhardt stays 3rd, Waltrip 4th, Ruttman 5th, Allison 6th, Bobby Hillin in 7th. Back they go, up through the S's. Richmond trying to stay out in front to win his 11th Winston Cup race in his career.
He's using the whole racetrack.
Oh, is he
looks
ever.
like he's qualifying again.
Bouncing off the curves, ricocheting around the racetrack. Here comes Earnhardt making a move on number 5, Bodine. Tremendous battle for second place. Sitting there watching it all, just licking his chops for second in the standings is Darrell Waltrip. There's that number 11 car just behind the number 3 of Dale Earnhardt. You're watching it live on the Superstation, WTBS. Getting further back in the field, 10th is Kenny Schrader right now, 11th Labonte, 12th is Mark Martin, 13th Richard Petty, 14th is Bill Schmidt, 15th is Kyle Petty. Glenn Struer from the West Coast is running in 16th position. In front, Tim Richmond trying to draw away from Jeff Bodine.
He has, Ken. He's got about a 10-car length lead on Bodine now.
Next year, Richmond, Bodine, Waltrip. 1st, 2nd, and 4th in this race. All drive for Rick Hendrick. How do you think it's going to work with all 3 of those guys pretty much under the same colors?
I think you're going to see just like today, like Rick Hendrick said, Ken. Whatever happens on the racetrack happens.
There'll be a lot of pressure among those 3 that they'll generate among themselves.
Just 3 laps to go.
Rusty Wallace is in 8th. Neil Bonnet in 9th. There you see Waltrip in the 11 car, and there's Joe Ruttman tagging right along. Great finish. Remember that Joe Ruttman had a second place here back in '81. He'd like to move up a little this afternoon. And it's not just that he wants to take Ruttman or take Waltrip down in the points. This is as good a run as he has had.
It sure is. Ruttman has driven an excellent race. I think the thing is about that caution flag that it allowed Darrell Waltrip's tires to cool. So now he is more equal on tires with the rest of the fellows that pitted on that last caution flag.
Well, as the laps go away here, however, his tires will go away faster than the others.
They should.
Let's see what happens.
But Riverside at times is a hard track to pass on, so he might be able to hold them off.
As we get down to the finish this afternoon, 116 of 119 laps are complete. Waltrip falls a bit further back from those leaders, and Richmond extends car number 25 out in front.
I think Tim Richmond is qualifying every lap, Ken. He is running these last few laps just absolutely as hard as he can.
He certainly is fun to watch. There is a different style to Tim Richmond than any other driver out here these days, but it's probably closest in the way he just deliberately crashes that car to a lot of the variant Dale Earnhardt thing. If it's got it, if the car can stand it, use every bit that it has.
Here comes Richmond up through the S's. That's been his piece of cake all weekend. He really knows how to straighten out those corners. And here comes Earnhardt. This is where he's gobbling up Bodine. Look at him close in right here. They get out on that long backstretch. Earnhardt doesn't have the dig down the backstretch to make a move on Bodine. But boy, is he eating him up right through here. A couple of laps ago, we saw him get in there and they made contact. Here he's inside again. They come down to turn 8. This is the last tight corner. And then you'll see that long charge down the backstretch. The pattern the last couple of laps has been that Bodine is able to pull away there. And as you mentioned, Phil, it's a tough racetrack to pass on. Earnhardt's only got a couple of laps left if he's going to get Bodine. Looks like this is where Bodine has the strength, right here.
Well, I think you're right, Dave. Earnhardt's within a car length, but he cannot do anything with Bodine on the backstretch.
Let's see what he'll do in turn number 9 this time. Earnhardt has been getting in very strong each lap. And as these laps come down to the very last moments of the 1986 season, Tim Richmond, who turned it all around midway through and just kept on winning races, seems to be on his way to victory here, the 7th of the season. 1 lap to go. When they come by this time, Harold Kinder drops the white. Whoa! Wild, loose for a moment is number 5, and here comes Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt running Bodine wheel to wheel. Now who's going to give? It is Earnhardt taking that 2nd position away from Jeff Bodine. Magnificent move off turn number 9 as they continue to thrash him around.
Earnhardt got up beside him off of turn 9 and held him even through turn 1 and just beat him down into turn 2.
And look at him pull away. Just flying away now from Jeff Bodine. The only place he seems shy on power was in that long back straightaway. There he was hurting. Everywhere else he has it covered. It'll be interesting to see what Bodine does as they come down for the finish.
He's got Darrell Waltrip to worry about now. Darrell Waltrip is riding his back bumper.
I almost wonder if something's gone away on car number 5. Here it is. The last time down this straightaway. Richmond in front. There is that Bodine car, followed by Waltrip in the 4th position. Waltrip looks like he's on his way into that 2nd place in the standings. The last time into turn number 9. Tim Richmond there. Dale Earnhardt 2nd. Jeff Bodine in 3rd. Darrell Waltrip in 4th. But Tim Richmond riding just an incredible finish to this 1986 season. He's coming on to win it. It won't be enough to give him 2nd place in the standings, but it certainly will help his pocketbook. To the line. Across for the checkers. Tim Richmond victorious. In 2nd, Dale Earnhardt. 3rd is Jeff Bodine. 4th, Darrell Waltrip. And 5th, Joe Ruttman this afternoon. The 6th position to Bobby Allison. And finishing in 7th, Bobby Hillin. That should be enough, and there may be a change in that. Bobby Hillin may go up to 6th position.
Bobby Hillin passed his teammate Bobby Allison going in turn 9 on the last lap.
And there's Tim Richmond, your winner. We'll get an opportunity to meet with him in just a moment in Victory Lane after this thundering victory for the Hendrick Racing Stable. Hill enough to congratulate the champion. You'll meet him soon.
The 1986 Winston Cup Stock Car Championship season is over. Its most successful driver is Tim Richmond, and he closed this year with a bang. In terms of race victories, this is the guy who won more races this year than anybody else. His 7th win of the year, and as a record crowd files out, here is the man they are saluting. And Richmond did it in magnificent fashion here this afternoon as he came to this racetrack, turned that spectacular qualifying lap, shattered the all-time lap record at this historic 30-year-old facility, charged to the front of the field, fell to the back with a broken suspension, came back and won the race. And right behind him, the man who is champion, Dale Earnhardt. Richmond is headed for Victory Lane now. We'll be joining him there in a moment and find out a bit about all that late race bumping and banging and all that spectacular action. Find out what was the key to this 7th win of the year for Richmond. Great performance today for Earnhardt as he fell deep into the field, got a lap down, battled back, put on that spectacular move that carried him into second place in the race. And, of course, his championship is long since on ice. And for all of those people that you see down there, boy, what a day this is. It all started back in February at Daytona, and through 29 long races, they have done their thing, and now, at last, they get to relax. Ken?
Let's take a look at the standings this afternoon as they finish up this race. Tim Richmond, with this marvelous display of road racing ability, defeats Dale Earnhardt. I still think Earnhardt's going to be the guy they've got to be for the championship next year. They just seem to get stronger and stronger, Phil.
I think so too, Ken. But, you know, the second half of the year Richmond had, though, he's going to be tough, as will Waltrip and Bodine. So it should be a tremendous battle next year. And
Bodine finished in third. Waltrip has a new team with his friend Waddell Wilson. They've come across fourth in this afternoon's race. The Waltrip Junior Johnson team, and I think it's got to be a little dramatic down there right now as Darrell climbs out of car number 11 for the final time.
Well, I'm sure it is. They won 3 championships together, but second place isn't too bad. They managed to hold on to second, even though Tim Richmond won the race, so they have nothing to be ashamed of.
Joe Ruttman had a great day for Kenny Bernstein. He brings his car home in 5th place. And Bobby Hill, in that last lap move on Allison, gave him 6th position. Bobby relegated to 7th, Rusty Wallace in 8th, Neil Bonnet in 9th, and Terry Labonte finishes up the afternoon in 10th. It looked like Al Unser was in there for 10th for sure, but that was not to be, as they had trouble with that car. You saw it smoking here just across from the start-finish line. We're going to be meeting Tim Richmond very shortly after his wonderful win again today. There were 14 lead changes this afternoon. 8 drivers were involved, 7 cautions for a total of 18 laps. Let's go down to Chris Economaki right now.
Well, Tim Richmond is just out of the car getting the cheers from the crowd. Win number 7. They've got a sign for him here. He's a happy soul. Hey, Tim, congratulations. What a way to wind up the season. What is all this on the side of the car, these marks here and everything? Who did all that?
I don't know. I just noticed it as I came out. Benny Parsons and I messed up. It was my fault. And Benny and I, as I was coming out of the pits, got together. I think that might be where it came from. But I want to say hi to my sister Sandy back in Ashland, Ohio, and my dad Al, and everybody back there. I wish you would have been here.
Oh, it was a great, great race. You know, you fell way back. What was the trouble with the car during that blue period of the race for you?
Well, actually, we were just catching up, not wanting to ruin it. You know, we didn't want to wear the poor thing out. We just wanted to be able to have a car at the end to be able to race, and plus I was getting a little blister on my hand.
You got some blisters there. Okay, now they tell me you're going to change your lifestyle. What are you going to do now that the season is over?
Well, right now we're moving out to Hollywood or somewhere out here in L.A. and take some acting classes and do a little public relations work and kind of rest up out in L.A. now.